This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a glorious day here in Africa. You're currently on board a live safari, so keep your arms, legs, and feet inside the vehicle. Welcome back, everybody, and welcome to Beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. My name is Jared Dupria, and we've got Marcel behind the camera today. And we're come back to exactly where we left off yesterday. And the reason why we've come back is yesterday we were rained out, so we had to race back to the lodge. And we were hoping that this beautiful big male lion was still here with the zebra, and he most certainly is indeed. Now, before I get going, I'd like to welcome all the kids this morning. Just a reminder that the first 45 minutes will be for all of you. So please do send in your questions. Email it to kidssquestions@wildearth.tv. And I look forward to hearing from all of you. So, I know it's a little bit tricky to see because it is still quite dark, but we have a big male lion in the back there, just a single one. The rest of the pride haven't joined up. We thought that maybe his brother or the females with their youngsters may have joined up. This carcass is smelling quite delightful, and that scent could have attracted them, but it seems that this did not happen. And that could also have been because of the weather we had last night. We had quite a bit of rain, and that rain would help to mask the scent of this zebra, and the fact that he's dragged this zebra into the thicket, it could also help in masking that scent. Now, he didn't kill the zebra. This zebra, unfortunately, did die of natural causes. We're not sure why. And it was about 4 days ago. And then yesterday, we found him busy feeding on this carcass. So we assumed maybe 2 nights ago, he was on his territory patrol and then happened to pick up on the scent of the zebra, found it, dragged it down into this thicket for about maybe 200 meters. So he's dragged it quite a long distance. Oh, there's a jackal. Oh, wow, there's a side-striped jackal that's just coming to join in. Oh. So we were speaking about, if you just zoom in a little bit there, Marcel. Oh, I think it's just, and go a little bit more left. I think it's just behind the bar. The jackal is there. Oh, and there it runs off. Oh, unfortunately. Well, anyway, there is a side-striped jackal in this area, and judging by that jackal's behavior, it definitely knows that this carcass is here, and then I'm sure that it knows this male lion is here as well. Oh, there's another jackal. Another side-striped jackal. So there's 2 of them. It's a pair. And there they go. Do you see that big stripe on their back, that silver back? And that's why we call it a side-striped jackal. Here in South Africa, we have 2 species, the black back and side stripe. And on Phinda, you technically can see both, but we really only ever see the side-striped jackal. It is very, very rare to see the black back. And you see how he's looking in that direction. Incredible hearing. He could hear those jackals walking on the road behind us. And those jackals are going to just sit and wait very patiently for this male to move off. But it doesn't look like he's moving off anytime soon. But they've got very interesting diets. In summer, the side-striped jackal actually eats quite a lot of fruit. And in some areas, the majority of their diet in summer is fruit. And then they will also eat on meat and carrion. And then in winter, as it starts to dry up, like it is now, not a lot of fruit around, and then they will almost solely eat on meat. So I'm sure that those jackal are just going to hang around patiently and wait for this big male to move off.
Good morning, everyone. We are here with some lovely impalas at Pridelands Conservancy, just waking up from a very, very chilly night and having a bit of a grooming session. It's just nicely camouflaged in this beautiful, beautiful golden low-felt grass. My name's Michael Anderson. Behind the camera we've got Gerrit, and as you can see, as I'm rugged up, it's very, very chilly this morning. So all the animals, including myself, are trying as best as possible to stay nice and warm. And you can see there's a beautiful sunrise happening behind us with the lovely clouds. It's a really, really gorgeous, gorgeous place we're in right now in Pridelands Conservancy. Look at those beautiful, picturesque trees on that lovely, lovely skyline. So as you can see, it's very, very dry at the moment, and these impalas over there are clumped up in a group. Probably last night they slept right here in this open area so that they could have the best chance to spot any danger. See what they're doing right now, looking at us? They can hear me certainly, even though I'm talking quite softly. They've got very, very good hearing with those big ears, and all of them together will be able to alert each other if there is anything dangerous lurking about. Some of them have got their heads down feeding already. It's breakfast time. You can see how dark they look. Impalas don't always look this dark. What they're actually doing is raising their fur up to trap air against their skin. You know, when you wear a thick jacket, it traps air against your skin, and then you can stay nice and warm. So that's what these impalas are also doing, raising their fur. It's like getting goosebumps. You have goosebumps sometimes when you get a cold wind that passes. That's our body also trying to keep us warm. Although we don't have that much hair, so it doesn't really work that well for us. But for the impalas, it works very, very well. As you can see, a lot of them are grooming each other, and this is very, very important. Now it's winter time, all the ticks and parasites, the things that like to suck their blood, are climbing onto them also to keep warm. And if they don't control those by grooming regularly, they won't be very comfortable, let's put it that way. Must be interesting, they actually eat a lot of those things. Yuck. When they're grooming, they rub their teeth through their fur, and they eat all those little creepy crawlies. I guess that's extra protein. Delicious. That's why you should eat your vegetables, otherwise you'll have to eat creepy crawly bugs. Not so good. Look how well camouflaged they are. So it was quite a bright night last night. It's about half a moon. So I could see quite clearly out my tent when I was looking out last night. So these impalas have great eyesight. So in this nice open area, they would have been able to keep relatively safe. Now these impala look quite calm. Some others we passed earlier were a little bit nervous, but they were also a very small group, so they didn't have as many eyes and ears to spot the danger. I love watching impala. Always makes me feel so calm. They really are the most elegant of all the antelope. You can see the tails, actually, when you look through there. They're not flicking that much right now. During the day, when they are walking around, you'll see their tails always flicking back and forth. These ones are very still. It's too cold for the flies and biting, flying insects, so they don't need to chase anything away. And there's another impala grooming. Very, very well camouflaged. Look at so we talked about the stripes yesterday on the bottoms. We were talking about how they can use them to walk, to follow each other through the grass, because they're very well camouflaged, which means they can hide really easily from the danger. But when they are running from danger, they need to be able to follow each other, especially the babies and the mummies. If they don't follow each other, they might get lost, and that would make them quite vulnerable. So they have those black and white stripes on the bum. One of the reasons is maybe to follow each other. Same like why they've got the little black tips on their ears. Maybe also so that the young ones can spot the mummies in the long grass. You see that one impala that's right in the middle of the screen there? That is a young male. Probably one of the ones that was born around November last year, so during the springtime. Seems to be doing very well. See, short little horns. Remember, female impalas don't have horns, only the males. Although, you say that, we have one impala here, which is a female with horns. Beautiful.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this particular part of the, well, I suppose we'll call it the morning safari, because I don't know if there's going to be a sunrise at all. My name is James Hendry. BK Bokomoso Malinga is on camera. Good one. And that over there is a crested barbet, which I think is a great way to start the morning, with a bit of colour. And the barbet is probably looking for ants over there. I hope you're all very well. Remember, if you're under the ages of 18, we'd love to hear from you using the email address kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. That's kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Any questions or comments you might have about Africa or the creatures we're seeing, we'd love to hear from you. Let's have a quick look at the water here. I'm not sure if Dewey the hippopotamus is still around or if he's moved along. While we do this, I will tell you that Kalamba the leopardess, who we were following yesterday afternoon, when I unfortunately parked our car on a stump and bent a piece of equipment beneath the car, was outside our rooms this morning, calling, so making her loud sawing, and Lauren is following her tracks currently. So hopefully Lauren will have some luck with Kalamba the leopard this morning. Then at the very far end of the waterhole there, BK, right next to the lodge, in fact coming towards us, is a grey heron, just landed. There we are. Very nice. Looking for frogs and insects. Is that the hippo in front of him? Or just a bit of mud? I think it's a bit of mud. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, thinks it's a duck. Maybe having a bit of a bath. That's unusual behaviour. It's very unusual. I think it's probably just a bath. It's quite a noisy dawn for one with so little sun. Perhaps it's because it's slightly warmer than normal. Here, red-billed buffalo weavers, francolins, lions calling, but very far away. Away in the distance, some ground hornbills. Uru, 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 uru. And the hornbills. Let's see if our swimming heron lands again in the water. Oh, it's beautiful. That is lovely, BK. Unfortunately, the bird has not been particularly impressive at landing in sight. Critter Freak, you say, what a gorgeous little bird. Critter Freak, it's not a little bird at all. It's actually a very large bird. It's a good, probably 3 feet long when it's fully extended. I think we shall move on from here. We're going to head off towards the east, see what we can find out in. Didn't find where or if Tundi had left Juma yesterday, and so we'll do that this morning, sorry. Must be afternoon somewhere. New Zealand, Australia, the Antipodes in general.
Good morning. Welcome on board, everybody. My name is Lauren, and I do have Davy on camera today. And I think James may have already told you this story, but we woke up to a leopard sawing right outside our room this morning. I have never experienced that. It was quite surreal. And it's far better to wake up to that than of your alarm. I don't think anyone in this world likes their alarm tone. That leopard was Tlalamba, I think, because I then realised she walked right past the room. I opened up my bathroom window and there she was. And she just casually strolled past our camp and had a sniff of the vehicles and walked on by. But sadly, that was about an hour ago. That's the only thing. We got caught in a bit of rain, and these cats can move very, very far in a short space of time. And because of the rain, the ground is now really damp and it's not so easy to track. We do have her tracks going past a house, which we can't drive past at this time in the morning. So we're just going to search this area for her. It could have been Shidulu. It was definitely a female, not a male. I think it was Tlalamba, our princess. So she's in the area somewhere, and I would really, really love to spend time with her, especially since her sawing, which is a vocalization leopards make, woke me up. Now, the dam cam heard the saw, I believe, but don't worry, we heard it too, but I don't think she's appeared. So we're trying to put together all the pieces of knowledge that we have to figure out where she might be. She's a fairly elusive cat, or she's grown into one at least. She's definitely her mother's daughter, and they just slip into the vegetation and you lose them. Leopards are very, very camouflage. More camouflage than you would think with that rosette pattern. Okay, I'm probably going to go ahead and turn off. It's always good to turn your vehicle off and have a little listen. And let's hope we can find our princess.
Wilders come in.
So while Lauren was listening to leopards soaring outside her house last night and this morning, Lauren, we were also very lucky last night here at Pinder to have hyenas outside my house, and they were going absolutely mental. So much so that even though I was watching the football, and something I watch very carefully, I left it for 15 minutes and sat on my stoop to listen to them. It was marvelous. And with this male lion being here, he probably wouldn't have been too concerned from that particular clan of hyenas. That was about 3 or 4 kilometers away, but it did sound like quite a few, and they were sounded like they were chasing something. They were running all over the place. I'm not sure what they were doing, if they were out hunting last night. Hyenas do hunt. Here on Ambion Pinder Private Game Reserve, we find, or our records show, that hyenas hunt far more than what they actually scavenge. And because of that, the clans of hyenas here actually try their best to avoid lions. Even when they're all together, they won't try and take on a single male or even a female on a carcass. It's not very often observed here, hyena and lion interaction. And so this male throughout the night pretty much had nothing to be concerned about, only that his brother would come in and try and take what meat is left. And it's amazing, if you had to park on the other side of this zebra, you would think that it is still pretty much intact. But when we look at it from this side, the way that the body is at the moment, and the ribs are still all intact, but there's a big cavity in his stomach. So this lion has been feeding around the stomach area, as you can see, also around the rear end, around the bum, and he seems to have got quite a lot of meat from there, and I'm sure he's probably going to feed a little bit more from behind, and then he'll head off to the front. You can see on the shoulders still quite a lot of meat there. But what I'm trying to look at, and for some reason I keep misplacing my binoculars every 5 minutes, I want to look inside that cavity, and I can see quite a bit of grass. So zebras, they're grazers, and so what this male lion did is he actually opened up the stomach itself, and they don't necessarily want to eat the grass. Well, they're not trying to eat the grass at all, but what they will do is they will often eat the stomach lining. Now, a zebra being a hind gut flamentis, a little bit different to the ruminants like giraffe and impala and buffalo, who have 4 stomach chambers. A zebra only has 1. And if I was to go to this carcass and have a look at that grass, you'd be surprised how, not really intact the grass is, I'm trying to think of the right word, but it isn't very well digested at all. And so there'd be quite a lot of grass around there. And had this been summer, we would expect the dung beetles to be actually moving towards a carcass like this and being attracted to the grass that was inside the stomach. It always fascinates me when there is a kill around, the amount of animals that will be attracted to it. So obviously this male lion found this carcass. We had the 2 jackal come in, and I'm sure they're not too far away. Had this male not pulled this carcass underneath the tree, which was very clever of him, I would expect to see vultures here. We have quite a few different species of vultures here, so that would have been attracted to this carcass. Insects are going to be attracted to this carcass. Birds soon will be attracted to this carcass because the carcass has flies and the birds will come and eat the flies. Hyenas might be attracted. Luda, you say he's going to eat until Christmas. Well, how long is that? Another 5 months. Well, I hope that he manages to eat something else between now and Christmas. But yeah, there's still a decent amount of meat here for a single male. His belly is extremely full, much fuller than what it was yesterday. So Luda, I do expect that probably tomorrow he won't be here anymore. It's not uncommon for male lions not to eat all of the meat that's on a carcass. That being said, it's really only if they're going to take a long time to feed it. Because the problem is, the longer he sits on this carcass, the less time he spends surveying his territory and walking around and scent marking and roaring and warding off any other males. So in his mind, if he sits on this zebra, or if he feeds on this zebra for about 4 or 5 days, there is the opportunity that other lions might come into his territory. Now these 2 males, so we only have 1 here, but they are part of a coalition of 2, do hold 2 different prides. So a pride south of us and a pride north of us. And both prides have a few females, and all those females have cubs currently, which is great. And if he doesn't patrol his territory, one of 2 things, or quite a few things might happen. 1, maybe a male comes into the territory and kills off his cubs, which is not what he or the females would want. Or 2, maybe those males come and kill off the cubs and take over that pride, which is most certainly not what he wants. So he doesn't want to waste too much time feeding around here. And like I said, I think he found this 2 nights ago. So I'm sure that he will probably end off feeding today. I might be wrong. They love to prove me wrong. But with my experience, male lions don't often finish the entire carcass. And then it's going to be great fun to see what's going to come in. I'm sure those jackals are going to come in. This carcass isn't fully hidden from the sky. So if these clouds do start to disappear, vultures will start to fly. We didn't see too many birds flying around yesterday, or large eagles and vultures flying around yesterday because of the weather condition. So I'm sure that they're all hungry and going to start surveying the area. And if they see this carcass when he moves off, they will definitely come in to feed. And one of the great things about vultures coming to land is it also attracts lots of other mammals. So hyenas, leopards, the other prides of the other lions in this area might see those vultures landing. So there is lots of different ways that animals are able to know there's a kill around. So this male most probably found the kill by scent. Other animals might be lucky to see a kill that's on the ground. Others might see or hear lions feeding. So if this male lion was feeding and something had to walk down a couple of 100 meters away, they might hear him crunching on the bones and could attract him. And then vultures landing would also attract lots of other predators. And we are in an area where we are in a bit of a hilly area here, and this area does have, we often see tracks of leopards coming through here. So there's all the chance in the world that when he leaves, with the amount of smell that this zebra is giving off, that a leopard might even come and feed on here. There even might be a leopard around here for all we know. It's not uncommon, and I have seen it many, many times, where leopards lie a couple 100 meters off from lions on a carcass. The lions don't know that they're there, and they just sit and wait.
This is a joke. Righty, what we've got here is a special animal. It is a cardinal woodpecker. Isn't that nice? He's a tiny little bird. And he makes a sound like he's laughing. Like he's just heard a great joke. But at the moment, he's hoping that the sun will come out and warm him up. I think he's going to be disappointed. There he goes. See if he'll call for us. All right, on the same tree, there's a dove, Cape turtle dove. And they're always a very comforting sound in the morning, and in fact, at most times of the day. They go... And that is all we have found so far. No mammals just yet. Well, not in this particular area. But that's all right. It's early days yet. Let's see what else we can find along here. Tracks. There is some sun coming out, which is quite nice now. Hello, A&M brothers. My favorite part of guiding viewers. I think it's the variety of the questions that we get, and the fact that, you know, some people are new, some people have been watching for a long time, which means that we get lots of really interesting discussions and questions. Speak as quick as you can. There's a grey-headed bushshrike there on the base of the tree. Can you see it? Well spotted. Right. There, you got it. Beautiful. Now, this is a bird we don't often see. We hear it all the time, but it's normally doing what it's doing now, which is hiding in the mid-story of the tree. Now, that is a grey-headed bushshrike. Bika's doing a fantastic job of keeping up with it. It's still in there somewhere. You see it, Bika? It's midway up. I think to the right of there and up. No, up. Quite a long way up. And to the left. Up. Did you see it move there? Yes, I think, yeah. Anyway, that was really nice. To get a view like that of the grey-headed bushshrike is unusual. And you have tracks of white-tailed mongoose from the evening, civet.
I think it's the same lioness from last night, the nicked-eared in Kahuma, which means she's been here all night, which is rather surprising. She spotted something. Now, Tlalamba's in the area, 100%. I just came across a lion instead. Yep, this is the exact same lioness from last night.
Good morning, mobile station. Sean from Milkberry.
Good morning, Sean from Milkberry. Okay, we are going to loop round to try and see. She's just on Philemon's Dip. We had tracks for Tlalamba, we had Leopard-esque tracks, and now we have a lion, which means Tlalamba's somewhere in the area. Now, we had this lioness last night, for those of you who were maybe not with us on Sunset Drive, and we actually saw vultures in a tree on our way to the hyena den. And then all of a sudden, we have a lioness. So she'd made a kill. I still have absolutely no idea what that kill was. Why are you on your own, girl? Now, this is causing lots of confusion. She was seen about a week ago with the rest of the pride on Mala Mala. But why is she on her own again? Okay, Davi, what do you think about me just turning here? And we're going to watch her walk towards us. Look, she does have a lot of scars. She also has a lot of nicks in her ears. She looks like she's been through the wars, this lioness. Okay, we're just going to turn here now. We're not going to block her path. You must never do that. I'm just going to reverse a bit, Davi. She looks like she's changing trajectory already. She has. She's changing direction. She's very alert. And this just shows you how closely lions and leopards do reside. They completely cohabit the same space, and we call this sympatric. And many of you asked me about that word, so I'll spell it for you. Sympatric, sympatric. So they live sympatrically, which means they share the same geographical location. She looks a bit stiff, doesn't she? I wonder if she has just sat there the whole night. Okay, she's going into the drainage, everybody. Which means we are going to have to try and follow. It's not going to be an easy task, this drainage, but we'll do our best. Sorry, Londeka, you'll have to repeat that question from Mindy. I'm just trying to... Can you see? Oh, I see her, Dobby. She blends in so well to the colour of winter. Why is she by herself? Minzy, I think I touched on that. I have no idea. I don't understand. Lionesses do separate from the pride. They don't always stay together. Sometimes they'll wander off, maybe hunt something small on their own for a little snack, and then they will reunite. But the story with Nick Ears seems to be quite confusing. She was seen with them last week, but I don't understand why she sort of has left the pride. They are said to be down south, on a property down south. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to go behind her for now. Called Shirley's yesterday. Of course, lions move great distances during the night, so she could... the pride could have moved, but I don't understand at this stage why she's not with them. Okay, I'm going to do my best to follow this lioness here. It's about to get a little bit hairy. Hopefully, we can keep up with her.
So we were planning to leave this male lion because he wasn't doing too much. And we fortunately managed to find those two jackal. I think you can only see one of them now, lying on the road. So this is a side-striped jackal, as I mentioned earlier. And when we just have a look at him, one of the main distinguishing factors between him and the other species that we get called the black-backed jackal is if you look at the back. So although they're called side-striped jackal, you'll see that there's that sort of black stripe down the side of their body with a silver-white band on the top of their back, where the black-backed jackal wouldn't have that white on the top. And because of that, they're actually quite easy to be able to tell the difference between. And they're extremely beautiful. I actually absolutely love these jackal with their long, pointy snouts. I think they've actually got very beautiful eyes and their very high pointed ears. And you'll notice that he was glancing off to our left, his right. And that is because there is a lot of impalas busy alarm calling down the valley. And the male lion's just lifted his head to listen in that direction. And the jackal's busy listening in that direction. Now, I did mention earlier that this is an area where leopards sometimes do move through. But maybe it is the brother of this male, the Bayala male that's on the zebra, moving into this area. So I think once we're done here, we're definitely going to go have a look down there. But let's spend a little bit of time here. It's not often we get to have such a great view of a jackal like this. Often they're in the road, in the long grass where we can't really see them. But currently they're in the open. And there is two of them, as I mentioned earlier, and they're most likely a breeding pair. They do mate for life. And they can have anything between 1 to 6 pups, which is extraordinary. The most I've ever seen in my career is 4 pups. And a little bit different to most of the carnivores out here, although these are actually omnivores, not carnivores. But they do breed every single year. So by that sense, you would think that there's lots of them around, but you don't see them very often. Shinzi, I couldn't agree with you more. I think more so than seeing something different than a black-backed jackal, I think it's always just so amazing to be able to see so many different species. And that's what's so wonderful with us being on, 5 different game reserves at the moment, is everyone has something different to show you. Yes, we've got these side-striped jackal, but Ambion Pinner Private Game Reserve actually has quite a few animals that we haven't shown you yet, that none of the other reserves have. We've been trying really hard to find a red daker, which looks a little bit similar to the grey daker, but smaller, a little bit more rounder, and like a reddy brown color. They're absolutely beautiful. And unfortunately, there's an area, the male lion's just stood up. There's an area in the north of the reserve that we have a very special and rare antelope called a Sunni. But there's just no way of being able to film them because there is no signal in that area. And for those bird lovers, we've also got so many different species of birds here. And he's just laying down again. Lazy lion. I thought he was going to get up and do something exciting, but doing what male lions love to do best, absolutely nothing. You can see it caught the attention of this jackal. He could hear the lion standing up and walking around and then lying down again. And I'm pretty sure he was hoping that that lion goes to investigate those alarm calls, because they do that occasionally. I think if those alarm calls are maybe halfway between where they are to now, maybe this male lion would get up to go and investigate. Butterfly, he has his patience pants on. Yeah, something that I must be honest, I don't have. So I do get very envious when I see animals like these jackal who have so much patience, and I wish I had the patience that he does. And I'm pretty sure he's been here or he or she, it's a bit difficult to tell for now. I think it's a he, judging by the size. The other one was a little bit smaller, so that would most likely be the female. He's probably been here for, maybe a day or so, and he might still be here for a couple of days. If this male lion doesn't move off, they might go off to scavenge. They do hunt, they do scavenge. As I mentioned, they are omnivores, so they will eat fruit as well. But a large portion of their diet will be insects, invertebrates, birds, and then the occasional carrion. And on the very rare occasion, they do actually hunt antelope as well. Now, that sounds quite wild claim, but I have once seen a pair of jackals killing a baby impala, a newborn impala. So I don't know if that's really much hunting, because it was pretty easy to be able to kill that impala, unfortunately, because it had just been born, but it happens. Now, I wonder if these two do have pups around at the moment, because the youngsters do stick with the adults for quite some time, and often with jackals, when they have a new litter, the old litter might still stick around as well. And if they did have a litter, or they did have some youngsters over a year or so old, you would often see them moving around with the adults. And because it's just the two of them, I wonder if they don't have a den somewhere. It would be very exciting. I love baby animals, and I think that jackals are definitely up there with being some of the cutest of the babies. So, Robin, in South Africa, we have two species of jackal. We've got the side-striped jackal and the black-backed jackal. The number of species of jackal in the world, I'm not 100% sure of.
There's also the golden jackal.
There's the golden jackal that you get up in East Africa.
That sometimes successfully hybridizes with dogs.
I was just conversing with Marcel, who trying to see if he knows how many jackal species are in the world. All right, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave these jackals on this line. They don't seem like they're going to be doing too much. And we're going to go investigate those impalas alarming.
We've managed to catch up with our lioness. It was not easy. She took us through a really tough drainage line. She's alert. She walked right past the area we had her last night, which I find quite baffling. The white-backed vultures are all still in the tree. There could be a carcass there. It would be so good to investigate, especially since you see this marula tree just off to the left of her. Behind that are the hyena dens. She's walking right in the trajectory of the hyena dens. Now, don't panic. What I meant by that was the hyenas will be on that carcass for sure, if there's anything there. Now, she may have just killed a mongoose, or she may have killed something much bigger like a warthog. Yeah, she's walking right in the road of the hyena dens. It's going to be really difficult to get ahead of her. I always like to try and get ahead of the animal rather than go behind them. She looks like she's limping slightly on that front right leg. Nothing too severe. There's definitely a limp there. Here we go. Yeah. Now, luckily, the hyena den that we believe is currently active, the one that I had the cubs at yesterday, is the furthest away one. We hit one, then we hit two, then we hit three. There's 3 dens that Juma clan use in a row. Although I haven't seen them use den 1 in quite some time. I think she's heading straight south. And I think she may start looking for the pride. Ooh. Lovely fresh lion track. Shall we show you the tracks? And this is what a fresh track looks like. Look at that. And we get asked a lot, how do you know the difference between lion and leopard? Because they're very similar. They're both felids. They're closely related. They have the same foot structure. But Really, the size you cannot mistake. Tlalamba's tracks are about half that size. Even Tingana, even a big male leopard, would not reach the size of a lioness. A young male lion could maybe be confusing for a male leopard, but they're also slightly different. Lions are much bulkier. They've got a lot more muscle mass behind them. They're heavier, and they tend to walk really heavy. If you look at her, they're still digitate, meaning they walk up on their toes, but they're still a little bit heavier on their feet than leopards are. And you can see that when you look at their tracks. I wish I could split myself in two and the other half go back and see exactly what she killed, because the vultures are all still there. Elisa, no. This could not be the same lioness from Pridelands. We know who this lioness is. She belongs to the Nkahuma Pride, and we call her the nicked-eared lioness. It's not very original, I know. And Pridelands is a little bit too far for this lioness to travel. The Nkahuma's territory is very much Juma and the surrounding areas. They go way down south to Mala Mala, way west on Arathusa, but she would not travel to Pridelands. Now, I know it's not great following a lioness like this, but this road is very, very narrow. So this is hyena den number 1. This is what we call Philemon's dip den number 1. Isn't that a mouthful? And this is the exact den site. It doesn't look much, but actually we had some wonderful memories there. Some of you will remember, some of you will not. And this is where one of the Avokas, Darkmane, attacked the ex-matriarch, Corky. And it happened live. Yes, that was not an easy sighting. And then slowly but surely we're going to hit den number 2. She could possibly be heading in the direction of Treehouse to drink. Treehouse Dam is just down here. She's really beautiful, this lioness. I think her scars and her tattered ears give her a lot of character. And she may simply be going to join the pride. Lions can hear things that we cannot. We can't even fathom how good their hearing is. They live in a completely different sensory world from us. We call this the Umwelt. Umwelt, I think, is German. I did do German at school, but I'm not good at it, clearly. And it refers to each individual species' unique sensory worlds and how each animal perceives its world completely different from the next animal because of their unique senses. So she could be able to hear the pride calling way off in the distance, and she could be heading in that route. After Treehouse Dam, slowly we would hit the southern boundary and she may cross out. Lionesses do separate from the pride, they do. But of course it benefits them greatly to stay with the pride. Protection, comfort, they can take down bigger animals. I've watched lone lionesses hunt warthogs many times. They have great strength up in the Masai Mara. But in order to take down something bigger, it would benefit the lioness to be with the rest of the pride. Now, just to give you some context, this is Philemon's dip den number 2. PDD. No hyenas there, but that's my personal favorite den. And just down here is hyena den number 3, where the hyenas we think are. We don't know. I've not checked this morning. It will be on my list of things to do. Oh, spiderweb in my face. And so she's walking in the complete opposite direction from that. So please don't worry, everyone. She is not heading in the direction of den number 3. She's heading in the direction of Treehouse Dam. Davi and I thought we had a leopard earlier. We thought we'd found Tlalamba, and then we thought, no, the size is completely wrong. And then we thought maybe it's a male leopard. And then we realized it's a lioness. The size difference between a leopardess and a lioness is very drastic. So apparently 45 minutes is up already. Can you believe it? I can't. So we're opening up the drive to everybody. Please do send in your comments and questions. But kids, please keep asking. We will still answer your questions too. Now we just want questions from everybody. So please send away. You can see that web still in my hat. There we go. I wonder, if she veers off the road, I wonder if we should go round this way, Darby. No, let's just follow her. It's very easy to lose a lioness. She blends completely into the background. Okay, we're going to keep following her, and hopefully she heads for a drink at Treehouse Dam.
Good morning from another fantastic, gorgeous day out here at Swallow Kalahari Reserve. Jean-Dre on camera, and my name's Dylan. I just want to welcome any of you that are joining us for the first time this morning, and obviously everyone else that's been with us over this journey over the past couple of weeks. Certainly from my side, it's just fantastic having you with. It's always exciting coming out here. You know, you start with a clean slate every single morning. We don't know what we're going to find. Well, this morning, you know, like every morning we're sticking with these meerkats just because we want to see these pups coming out. So for those of you who don't know, we've got this beautiful meerkat burrow system out here. And this is a group called the Rock Stars. They're named after this like really weird road junction here, and this totally random rock just lying there. So that's where this group of meerkats get their names from. So we've been following this group very, very closely over the past week and a half, almost 2 weeks now, because the alpha female, she actually gave birth, I think we worked out on the 18th of June. So her pups are very, very close to being actually brought out. That's really why we want to stick with this. But for those of you who have been with us on the journey, just bear with us. It's going to be super, super exciting when they do come out. And that's like the fun of being out here with us, because you don't know when it's going to happen. And also, you know, you can get these like wayward events, that no one can really foresee. A predation event, we're hoping that doesn't happen, but it's certainly not impossible. But anyway, yeah, so I'm still working on how we're going to get an art wolf. I missed an art wolf yesterday by seconds, unfortunately. But these things happen, and you kind of like take it on the chin. So hopefully over the coming days. And then there's another species that I'm really trying to get as well. There's a whole lot of species, but between Genre and myself, we're going to be working hard, really hard to get these for you. So, well, we can't really call it like work, actually. It's kind of like we're going out, we're looking for them. It's a load of fun at the same time. So, yeah. Calling game drives work is a bit, yeah. So I'm just going to spend a bit of time here. I want to see which burrow they come out and kind of what time. I think within the next 10-15 minutes they should be out.
She did. She came to Treehouse Dam to drink. Exactly as we predicted, and we've actually came to the complete other side of the dam to give her space, but also to have beautiful views of her taking a drink. Look at that. This is the first time I've seen anything have a drink at Treehouse Dam in a very, very long time. Now she'll be drinking for quite some time. The science behind a cat's tongue is fascinating. They don't do the sort of wooden spoon effect that dogs do, where they curl back their tongue and scoop the water into their mouth like a spoon. It's completely different for cats like that. They're working against the force of gravity. It's all to do with physics. Yay, physics. But cats are said to be not the most efficient drinkers at all, and it takes them a long time to quench their thirst. I'd love to film them from start to finish in actually slow mode so we can count the number of times the tongue goes in. So they suffer a hydrodynamic problem, cats. So they actually have really sort of thin, raspy hairs on their tongues. Their tongues are rough, they're not smooth. And this is used in grooming, absolutely, but it also very much assists in drinking. So they're not able to suck. So humans obviously have the ability to suck liquid through a straw, but cats can't do that. And they also can't do that spoon effect. So what they do is lap their tongue in and out of the water as fast as they can. Really, really fast. She looks like she's going quite slow, but actually it's repetitively in, out, in, out, in, out, very, very fast. And what they're trying to do is cover their tongue in the liquid and then defeat gravity by pulling the tongue back in so fast that that small bit of water goes in the mouth. Now, if you watch, it's only the surface of the tongue that briefly touches the water. And that's what she's doing. It's almost like dunking your tongue in liquid and then quickly putting your tongue back in your mouth, throwing the liquid to the back of your throat. And that's exactly how she's drinking right now. For a brief second, liquid will stay on the surface of her tongue before gravity takes effect and it falls off. There's lots of studies done on this, and a domestic cat is said to move the tongue 4 laps, 4 times per second. But the big cats are said not to be as fast as domestic cats. They're slightly slower because their tongues are larger. So therefore they lap a little bit more slowly, and they still achieve the same balance of gravity and inertia. There's your physics for the morning. Lundeka, can you just repeat that question one more time, please? Aisha. You're asking how long will the lioness take to quench her thirst? It really depends. I mean, we just witnessed that. You saw it from start to finish. It really, really depends how thirsty she is, because cats can also hydrate themselves and quench their thirst with blood, which I know doesn't sound very pleasant. But she definitely made a kill last night. I've not found the kill, but there was vultures everywhere, and she was sitting with a very full belly last night. So she would have been able to hydrate from the blood that was, well, in her kill. So maybe this morning she's come down for her morning drink, but she doesn't actually need to quench as much as she maybe would on a really, really hot summer's day. So it does depend. But I once counted the tongue laps with a guest at Gallagher. We sat and counted, and it reached something like 647 laps or something along those lines, and it took a very, very long time. They only get a small amount of water in their mouth at one time. So if they're very thirsty, if they haven't eaten for some time, and it's very, very hot, then of course they're going to, oh, is that an injury, Davi, on her back left leg? No, back right leg, sorry, the other left. It is. That's what she's limping on. That makes sense. It's not being the front leg. She's limping on that back leg. It doesn't look too severe, though. Can you see her, Davy? I can't see her. I'm good? Okay. Ooh. It's a bit bumpy. This used to be filled with water not so long ago. This whole area that I've just driven over. And of course, the volume of water in this dam is reducing quite drastically, actually. Yep, she's a woman on a mission. I'm also not going to be able to get round her here. So we'll just hold back. Oh, I take that back. We maybe are going to get round her. I wonder where she's going. She's going into the block. Let's see if we can go round. I really don't want to bash behind her. Yep, there's a lot of limp in there. She's injured her back right leg. Okay, I'm not entirely sure where our gorgeous lioness is off to, but we're going to keep following her for now.
So I've done a little scan around the burrows here, and we don't see any sign of predator tracks, like honey badgers, caracal, wildcats, those kind of things. And it's something we do every single morning when we get to a burrow. It's actually just a good habit to get into, regardless of whether you're working with meerkats or anything else. When you go out, keep your eyes peeled. You know, what's out here just actually reveals a whole new world. And I think over the coming days, especially on our afternoon drives, I think I'll start showing you some more of the tracks of other little creatures that are around here as well. So I just want to, for those of you who might be wondering, if you look at some of these burrows, you see there's lots of tracks around the entrance, okay? But then other burrows are very, very smooth around the entrance, like that middle one over here. You can see it over there. So what we do there is, if we're not sure if the meerkats have actually returned to a burrow system, and we had this a couple of days back where Veronique, the meerkat habituator, she wasn't sure, geez, had the meerkats returned, were they here, were they not here, what's going on? And then we actually just gently sweep, we just use a little stick, we just sweep the outside of the burrows, because then you can see clearly any sign of activity at the burrow, regardless of what it is. It just makes it easier, whereas if you've got a whole set of tracks, then it becomes very, very difficult on the soft sand to determine exactly which ones are the fresh ones, which ones aren't. And I think that's one of the principles in tracking is, it's one thing being able to identify a lion track. It's kind of like pretty simple, or an elephant track. The challenge is to be able to say, okay, what is the age of that track? Determining the age is one of the biggest and key skills of a very, very good tracker. And it's very simple if you've got elephant tracks that are clearly days old or weeks old, and there's other animals on top of them, that kind of stuff. But where the challenge comes in, if you're following a herd of elephants or a couple of bulls and you're looking for a particular individual, and you've got tracks going up and back, up and forward, and they're just a couple of hours apart, that's when the tracking skills really kick in. So here in the Kalahari, where there's very, very soft sand, even gentle breeze can disturb the tracks, and it can make relatively fresh tracks look pretty old very quickly. So just sweeping the entrance of the burrows, if you're unsure, makes a big difference in terms of figuring out what's going on. But now we know these meerkats are here. Just I shouldn't say that before I jinx it. But we know these meerkats are here. They went down here last night. So unless something crazily untoward happened during the course of the evening, I think we are on the money. That sun is going to be coming out over those hills, I reckon, in the next 3-4 minutes. And shortly after that, the meerkats are going to be popping out. Look, I always love that light in the far distance as it cuts through that valley. Look at that. Mika and John, it was just asked, how big will these meerkat pups be in relation to the adults? These meerkat pups are going to be about that size. Tiny, 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 tiny little things. But you got to see it. You got to see it when they come out. I promise you. I mean, I can show you photographs. It's not going to do it justice. I think just bear with us over the next couple of days. And I'm already getting excited just about thinking about it. No, it's going to be brilliant. You're going to see. It's just yeah. It's like seeing like anything small, like a leopard cub or an elephant calf or it's just, yeah, this is going to be good. You okay there, Jean-Andre? Sun's out, and I'm just going to spend some beautiful time here enjoying that sunrise.
Well, our sun is not out. Not at all. We're getting blue skies. It's still very overcast. Hopefully it will brighten up for the afternoon. You can see the rains that way. Now, our Lioness is still bashing through the thicket here. It's not easy. She's heading towards the southern boundary. Oh, there's some Impala there. She doesn't seem interested. But yes, if she heads towards the southern boundary, I think she's trying to reunite with the pride. That's what my gut is telling me. It's a bit late, my fair lady. The Impala spotted you a long time ago. And they're off. Just trying to have a little look and listen to what she's possibly looking and listening at. Natasha, I don't think she's pregnant. I think she's very, very full. Very full. That's why she has a big bulbous belly. Most cats overeat, they gorge themselves. The lifestyle of feast and famine is not easy. So therefore, when the feast comes, they gorge themselves. And they completely overeat. Just like hyenas, their belly swells. And I know we've not got the best view. She's moving very, very slowly. She's not 100% stalking. She's interested in something and I don't want to interrupt, so I just want to see where she goes, see how well she blends into the background. Once she goes behind this termite mound, we can move. But those Impala are long gone. They ran. Okay, I'm just going to slowly move forward. She's looking this way, so I don't want to go this way. We don't want to put our vehicle in between whatever she's looking at, so we'll go behind her. Whew. Can you see her? 12 o'clock. keep getting all the water from all of the trees in the car. Okay. Now this is getting really thick here. We're probably going to have to go round in order to keep up with her. Let's try and go around this way. Okay, I'm just going to really cautiously try to keep up with her because the block is starting to get really, really thick.
I've got something, it's always funny when Genre and I don't have any animals to show anyone, including meerkats. We find something totally random. But this is quite interesting, and I really just wanted to show you this. So, out here, one of the key things, and I gave a hint. Remember yesterday I asked those of you who joined us, I said, I'll give you a hint as to what animal we're waiting for. And I said, it's an area where there's lots of grass. And I was kind of hoping to throw that out as a decoy to try and get people to think, well, we're looking at an animal that's going to be eating grass, but it actually wasn't. Where I was going with that is that the animal, the aardwolf, is a big feeder on termites, especially harvester termites. So you need an area where there's lots of grass to get lots of harvester termites, and that's where you're probably more likely to find aardwolf. So these harvester termites, when you look at this clump of grass over here, okay, I'm excluding this one. This is Kalahari sourgrass. This is it's an annual. It just reseeds every year. This one here is called silky bushman grass, and it gets these little tussocks that die off every year, but it keeps regenerating, so the rootstock underneath here will be alive. But look how the tops of these have all been eaten off, all been bitten off. This is harvester termites that do this. Okay, so when you see these little spiky clumps of grass, that's harvester termites that do that. And these little guys, oh yes, there's a spider. Sorry, Genre, look at the spider. Can you see him? Look at this, look at this, look at this. I'm going to try and hold that still. Oh, there. Just so tiny little spider. Look at that. Can you see it? Yes. Wow. Now that just shows, again, getting sidetracked here. There's harvester termites that have been eating us on a random piece of grass. A fantastic, I don't even know who that is. What species, I mean. I know his name's Larry. I just don't know what species it is. But that's incredible. Just on a random piece of grass here, there you got a little spider. Now you must wonder, what is he hunting on a daily basis out in this environment? And that raises other questions. So anyway, back to these harvester termites. So these little guys are critical. And those of you who have been sitting watching us with the pangolin, the aardvark and that, some of the more observant ones amongst you may have picked up a key thing there, is that the areas that we've been seeing those animals in has got tons and tons of grass. Now that is a key requirement, habitat requirement for those animals, because they need the grass cover, not so much for themselves, but for whatever they're feeding on, which is ants and termites. Those ants and termites cannot survive in areas where there's no grass, or should I rather say they survive at very low densities. Uh-oh, someone's joined us, yeah. Look here. There we go. I love this. I love it, all of it. Okay. Sun's out, bun's out. Okay. Where are you? I'm lost. There you go. First little one for the morning. That was 7-8 minutes after the sun came up. First meerkat out. So we'll say goodbye to the little spider and the harvester termites, but I'll show you I want to show you actual harvester termites. Good morning, little meerkat. Who can't enjoy this? It's impossible. You can't not enjoy this. This is just the best. And I really hope all our other colleagues are going to be having some amazing sightings today. I'm sure they will. Again, this is the little alpha female, so the dominant female. She's first up, as she's been every morning so far that we've seen. So the others will be up shortly. But she always comes out first, just does the cursory inspection of the area. Sassy has just asked, how many teats do meerkats have for the pups? They've got 6. And these ones, we don't know, everyone has been suckled on. So we don't know yet how many pups they've got, because remember, they can suckle on different teats and that. So it's not to say that, well, if there's 6 teats that have got suckle marks on, there's 6 pups. She could have 2 pups. Okay, a second one's just popped up. So yeah, so we're just waiting with bated breath, and we will see over the coming days, and hopefully sooner rather than later, exactly how many pups. I'm saying 3. I think Jandre said 4, eh? And then Veronique, the meerkat habituator, she said she reckons 5 pups. Anyway, so let's see. As you can see, I'm the optimist amongst the group. Good morning. Another beautiful day out here. Bit windy, but it's fun. So I'm just going to sit down here now, just so they get used to me sitting down, and I'm just going to wait.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to and beyond Ngala for our sunrise safari, although a little bit late, but you can see beautiful start to the day. We've got most of the Birmingham Pride sitting here. So this morning you'll be with myself, Sean, and we've got OD behind the camera. Apologies for our late arrival, but as you can see behind me, very, very cloudy up along there, and we've had rain. It's been raining for the last sort of hour and 20 minutes. We did go out at the beginning, but then the rain chased us back home. But you see, worth it. These guys were actually very, very close to the camp. The camp from here is less than a kilometer away, and they just huddled down into this little group during the rain, I suppose trying to keep warm, trying to keep dry. And great news, yes, that over there is the young Birmingham male, the injured one that we saw calling and moaning with Rowan last night. He obviously joined up with the rest of them, which is really, really awesome. Now we're counting about 13 animals here. So you can see in this little puddle, there's 11, and then exactly where OD is standing, there you just saw that little flicker of movement there in the grass. There's a lion moving down inside there. There it is. Not sure who exactly that is. We haven't actually been around to that side. We just arrived here. But that is, one of the other lions. I'm not sure if that is the cubs or what it is. But all you guys need to do is just ask. So please don't forget to ask all of your questions. You could just hashtag Wild Earth on the Twitter feeds, or you can at FC on YouTube to get your questions. And don't forget to get all your questions into me, especially because it's my last morning drive, everybody. Quite sad, but still my last morning drive here. So at least the Birminghams came out for that, which is very exciting. And we want to have a look, because remember these little cubs, the one had that cherry eye, and it's this one that's moving around right here. There we go, that OD was focused on. That's the one with the little cherry there. You can see a little bit of that pink eye. That's what she had last time. Now we discovered, number of you lovely viewers sent me little articles about what the cherry eye actually is. It's that third eyelid. And so what happens is she obviously got like a scratch or something like that, and that third eyelid, the tear duct or the tear gland, has sort of swollen. It's been pushed out. So it doesn't make her blind. It doesn't actually have a harmful effect on her vision, and it could be there forever, or it could sort of recede slightly, and it looks like it has receded a little bit. So hopefully she'll lift up her head again, and then we can have a look and see exactly what's happening. But did you see that there? That is the young white female. But do you see that little bit of pink on her nose? It had a pinkish tinge to it. Now, these animals are not full. You know, I don't think they ate last night, but I think they may have eaten the night before. Or they caught something small. You know, I don't know, maybe they caught like an impala or a young kudu or a bushbuck or something like that. You can see there, yeah, her stomach, she's eaten recently. I mean, we haven't seen them since, I think, Sunday was the last time we saw the whole pride. And today's Wednesday, so they possibly caught something maybe Sunday night, ate it Sunday night, Monday night. Anushka, that is a difficult question to answer. So Anushka wants to know, how far does the Birmingham Pride travel? Now, if we just get that out, and we ask OD just to come back to me here, so I can show you a map, Anushka. Hopefully, should help you narrow this down. So this map is Ingala. Now so that red dot is the tented camp. That's where we started out, and we are now about there. So not very far. So this pride, the Birmingham Pride, their territory spans pretty much this entire southern area of Ingala. So I'd call this sort of the north. So this sort of southern central area of Ingala. And for the last 3 years that I've been here, this is where they've been sort of hanging around. Mostly around this area here. This is where all the little white cubs were born, was sort of down here on the map. But since this lockdown began, in the last sort of 4 or 5 months, they've actually been moving across this way, off of our eastern boundary, and even up here into this northern area. Up here, we found their tracks going up a road here, we call it Middle Road. They headed all the way up there. First time in my 3 years here have they gone all the way up there. So Anushka, generally here, this is where they move, this central area, but lately they have been spanning off across in this direction. So, you know, they move far, but this is their territory, this is where the area they know, this is where a lot of these females were born, where they grew up, so they want to stay in an area that they're comfortable with. They know the hunting, they know the prey, they know where to get water, they know all sorts of things like that. And then we also got a number of prides surrounding and beyond Ingala that will, you know, kind of keep these guys, especially with these cubs and the 2 new baby cubs, will keep them in the more central parts of our reserve so that the cubs don't, you know, get attacked and die. Which would be very, very sad because we've all grown to love them very much. Now, you see they're lazy. I was hoping if they hadn't eaten, I was just hoping that they hadn't eaten because then they would be hunting because this rainy weather would be very good for that. So we've got a question from Laura asking where the white lions are. So you can see Laura there in the picture is the one. That is the female. That's the one that we saw with the pink. And then Odie will zoom in. There's the young male. You can see him over there. Actually looking also quite dirty. Look at his shoulder. See, very, very brown, very dark. Now that looks a bit like a mixture of mud and then maybe some old blood. They just haven't cleaned, but some old blood from whatever I think they ate the other day. Would be cool to know where they've been. You know, we don't know how far off of our boundary they actually go. But they obviously do go there, and they've been quite successful out in the eastern parts of Ingala. In terms of hunting, you know, they go out there and they catch quite a lot. But, you know, for now, they don't look like they're going to be doing too much. I think with the rain finished, they may wake up and maybe start grooming, just clean that water off. But we're going to wait here and see.
Our Lioness is definitely not being lazy this morning. She is a woman on a mission. Now, we've got her, don't worry. She's going to cross right in front of us any moment now. And just to my right is Gowrie. And for those of you who are maybe unsure what that means, that is our southern boundary. We cannot cross. Just like I thought, she's going to cross out. I hate those words, crossing out. But that's what she's going to do. I think she's looking for the rest of the pride. They're south. Oh, okay. Maybe we're going to have our a few minutes longer than I thought there. No, we're not. She is a woman on a mission. And James, who is having car problems, I'm afraid, also heard alarm calls from this area. She has brought us to this exact area that he could hear the alarm calls, and the alarm calls were not at her. So there's possibly another predator in the area. Yep, she's crossing out, everybody. Let's see if we can get around her. Davy, hold on tight. Megan, I agree with you. Megan says, find your family, girl. She's going to, Megan. Don't worry. Don't worry. Oh. Okay, this is the southern boundary, everybody. And here she goes. Unless she decides to walk along this. No, she's not. I spoke too soon. Into Little Gowrie she goes. Okay. Now I'm going to investigate this area, see if I can see anything else going on that was maybe making those alarm calls. And hopefully we'll find another predator.
On support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
So the second one did pop out, and then it went back again, popped out, went back again. So this is very, very much a typical pattern for meerkats in the morning, especially when you've got a bit of a breeze blowing. I mean, this is not a strong breeze and it's not particularly cold. Certainly it's actually a lot milder than we've had over the past couple of days. Just all those big fires that we had yesterday, well, not we, there were probably fires quite far north of us, up towards Botswana border side. We're about 80 kilometers from the border, and typically you get big fires around that region at this time of the year. But all that smoke is cleared up now, so we don't have that lovely smell of that burning grass in the air. It is a very, very incredible, stunning smell at this time of the year. I like it. And for any fires that you get through these regions, I mean, they're not these massive raging things. You know, they just idle along slowly. You can see this kind of vegetation. You know, it'll take a fire, but it's very, very low key, low intensity. There's no threat to wildlife and that kind of stuff. So again, just walking around gets them used to our movement. And that's very important, whether you're habituating leopard cubs or meerkats, whatever it is, if you maintain the same position the entire time, whether it's seated or standing, the animals become used to that, and then anything outside of that tends to become like, oh, what's going on there? So it's always good just to vary your posture, vary the tone of your voice. In other words, you can talk softly sometimes, you can talk loudly sometimes. Doesn't disturb them. It just gets them really, really used to all these variations in your activity. Standing, sitting, even lying down. You know, lying down helps a huge amount as well. Hey, Mama Bear, where's all the rest of your family? It's the 1st of July today, isn't it? I think so. The 1st of July. So 18. These are. Gabriel, age 11, has asked how big is Swallow and is it fenced? So Swallow is about 115,000 hectares. So it's just over 1,000 square kilometers in extent. So 250,000 acres. So it's a very, very big area. It is fenced. But the fences, I mean, although they are designed for keeping animals in, we still get like a lot of movement through, especially animals that dig and burrow. Aardvark, honey badgers, porcupines, warthogs, and then because of that you get things like cheetah in and out all the time. And the majority, well in fact all of the neighboring, the surrounding areas, although it's primarily livestock farming, like many reserves are surrounded by that, most of them have got good numbers of game on them as well, and they tend to be, the local people tend to be fairly tolerant of wildlife on their properties. There's another one that's just popped out just to the right of Jean-Ray, and it's just running up to, there you go. Yeah, so we're very, very fortunate in that regard. So yeah, we don't have any issues with like animals killing livestock and that kind of stuff. And it is a challenge, I guess. Well, not a challenge, I mean, it's one of the beauties of Swale is that on an area this vast, this expansive, that, you know, when we're out on game drives, I mean, we can travel for hours in any given direction. And but the challenge there as well is you never know what you're going to find, and sometimes things are super relaxed, and then other times they aren't. So that's just part of the fun out here. I just want to see which other burrows these meerkats come out of. So I'll spend a little bit more time here.
Okay, so as Dylan was saying, sometimes things are relaxed, sometimes they are not. As you can see here, things are very relaxed. We haven't had too much activity. We have moved the car slightly so you can see our favorite handsome male just relaxing over there. So we counted again. Remember, we got those other two lions that joined this little pile over here. So that makes 13, which makes sense though, because then we are missing the two Ross males, the female, and her two little cubs. So those 5 would then lift it up to 18, which is the total number of the Birmingham Pride. And now we were just chatting. Well, I wonder where this female with the cubs are. I mean, she could be here. You know, this isn't too far from where she would hang around. So she could be lying anywhere here. I mean, you have a look around here and see how well these lines are camouflaging. And she could just be lying further inside where we can't see. So there they actually stand out quite a lot. But I promise you they are camouflaging. But it's a good thing the Ross males aren't here, because then I don't think this young male would be so much, you know, in the middle of the group. So that's always a plus for us. The Ross males are good, you know, they've done very well in the area and sort of helping protect all of these cubs that you can see in the pile. So they have done a good job, but towards this young guy, they've been quite hostile, which is understandable though, you know, that's how lions work. It's the wildlife, it's what's the cycle, the life cycle, that's the one. That's just how it goes. So we'll see. I was chatting to Rowan and we'll be like, you know, it's very interesting the changes that are going to happen even over a time like a month. You know, a month might not seem too long, but in the animal world a month is quite a long time. Like you'll notice these cubs are going to grow quite a lot, especially the age they are. I mean, some of these cubs, this young white male, he's, just under 2 years now. Give or take, yeah, about a year 9, a year 10 months. So, you know, another month or two, and these guys are old. They're old. So I'm quite nervous. So I'm sure Rowan did tell you, so we're off tomorrow, actually, we leave. And then we'll be back in August, though. And the changes that are going to happen in that month, I'm very excited for when we come back and to see, not just the lions, you know, also the leopards and Yala female, her cub. It will be interesting to see if Makotia male's even still here. You know, he's getting very old now to still be on the property. So another month, and there's a very good chance he's going to leave. And you'll see, I'm sure when we get back, we'll just spend the first, 4 days telling you guys how much everything has changed, how different everything is. But that's the awesome thing about it. So we've got a question from Ellie. Don't forget to keep sending your questions through, please. Ellie wants to know, do lions always live in a pride? So Ellie, pretty much. All the females will always live in a pride. They will always be mainly in the pride that they are born into. They will stay in that pride. On the rare occasion, if that pride becomes too big, they will sort of split up, but they will stay in a group. However, Ellie, it becomes complicated now with males. So males will leave the pride. Like this young male, he's supposed to have left the pride, and then he will be sort of nomadic for 2-3 years. And during that time, he won't have a pride. He might have a coalition, as in some of his brothers, if he can find any, if he has any, join up with them. But like for this one, as handsome as he is, he's by himself. So he will not be in a pride for a 2 or 3 year period. But then he will eventually take over and then be back in a pride, Ellie. So females, yes, always in a pride. Males will go on a 2 or 3 year break from a pride before they join up again with a new one. But otherwise, it is much better for them to live in a pride. You know, lions are apex predators for sure. They can bring down a lot of food. They can survive by themselves, but they are just social animals. You know, they are very social. They want to be with other lions. You know, taking down something like a buffalo, you want help. You need assistance. So being in a pride is good for that. Which is pretty much the only cat species, big cat species at least, that will be sort of family orientated. You look at the leopards, you look at the cheetahs, they're not like that. Leopards are solitary. You know, we were very, very lucky the other day, when was it, Friday and Saturday, when we saw those two leopards together, the male and the female. That was very, very lucky, but that was purely because they were mating. And then with Barney on Monday, I think it was Monday, where you saw Tambourdi Tom and that half-eared male together at night. Really, really awesome. I mean, we were saying that is the first time I've ever seen two dominant males like that. And it was crazy behavior to watch. You know, crazy behavior. Even Rowan was saying he's been here for 6 years or so, and I think it was the first time that he'd ever seen two dominant males so close together like that, but just growling and not actually fighting. You know, we think we know these animals, even these lions that I've seen hundreds and hundreds of times. I've seen these lions, and they still do things that surprise me. They still do things. I mean, look at that. That one there is pretty much sleeping on the other youngster's paw. You see, very, very, very close together. And as we were saying now, you know, just extremely social animals, especially weather like this. They're wet. They're probably quite cold. There's a bit of a breeze here, and every lion is pretty much touching another lion. Look at that white one in the middle. She's trying to get comfortable. Oh, we got a bit of rolling over here. And she's going to squash another lion. They just find whatever position is comfortable.
So you can see the way they're hunched over here, or that one that's just walking forward. It's kind of like at this hunched over posture. That's because of this wind. And although, remember I said the temperature's actually not that cold this morning, it's the wind chill factor that kicks in there, so they can lose heat pretty quickly. What's going to be a key thing to watch here with this group though is once those pups are out, and let's say we're saying roughly 2 weeks of age, they're going to come out sometimes sooner, depending on what happens, sometimes a little bit later, but kind of a ballpark figure is 2 weeks. And then they can hang around these burrows for another week, 2, 3, sometimes longer, but sometimes a lot shorter. And so I'm going to be very interested as to how soon they actually leave this burrow system with those pups. Normally it'll be, I think, on a larger burrow system like this, where you've got multiple entrances and they can shift pups from one spot to another within this burrow system. I don't think they're going to be leaving too soon. But on very small burrow systems, when you only got like 1 or 2 actual burrows in the system, then sometimes they can actually leave a bit sooner, and that's normally got to do with the build-up of parasites in there, and or the known presence of a predator in the area. And African wildcat, our meerkat habituators have actually seen African wildcats stalking meerkats, catching pups, catching these babies, and on one notable occasion, I mean, that's the kind of sighting I'd love to see. They watched this African wildcat come in, ran in, grabbed a pup, ran off with a pup, and this is like a tiny one that had just been out a couple of days. The entire group of meerkats took off after this wildcat, chased it. The cat dropped the pup, and they got that pup back unharmed with the group again. I mean, imagine that kind of sighting. So, so there's different reasons, kind of like coming back to what we were saying there. There are different reasons as to why they would move a burrow system, and it wouldn't necessarily be a single reason. It could be multiple factors that build up. And again, this alpha female is constantly scratching, and it's just very, very interesting that she's doing this way more than any of the other individuals in this group. So I'm quite interested in that. I must actually ask around if there's what the reason for that would be. Megan has asked, how many meerkat babies will a female have throughout their life? Megan, that's a very, very good question. And, again, studies on captive meerkats wouldn't be comparable to what actually translates onto the ground. And also meerkats in different areas. So, they can have 3-4 litters a year sometimes. But, so 3-4 litters a year. Normally out, what we're seeing on Swallow, you're looking at about 2 litters a year. But it is crucially dependent on the abundance and availability of food. So if you're in drought conditions, well, you're obviously going to have a lot less pups. Sometimes they won't even, and again, sorry, I'm just jumping around you a bit, but to answer that question as well is, you've got to say, well, it's one thing having a litter of pups, okay? It's a completely different thing looking at, well, what is the survival rate of those litters? And, if this female has 4 or 5 pups, I would be surprised if 2 of them reach adulthood. Well, in fact, I wouldn't be surprised. I would be like, okay, well, that's kind of like normal, because the attrition rate on these animals is huge, especially in that first year. It's very, very high. So where I'm coming back to answering your question is saying, well, if a female lives for 9 years, well, yeah, she could have, I don't know, 18 or 14, 15 different litters over a lifetime. But it doesn't mean that all of those litters are surviving. Sometimes you'll get complete litter failure for various reasons. It could be drought, it could be predation, it could be disease. And that's why I say that question is quite challenging. You can say, well, the optimum, she can have 2-3 litters a year, every year, and she can have 5 per litter. Well, that's a lot of meerkats that she'll be churning out. But the reality on the ground is very, very, very different. These little guys are facing massive threats, environmental threats, and any species is like it. But what is interesting on that, sorry, I'm just like really rambling on here, but it's quite interesting, is like when you look at species that are producing, that have got a fast turnover and they're producing lots of youngsters, okay, you generally find there's an excellent reason why that happens. And that normally comes down to the mortality rate on those. So imagine you only have 1 pup a year, okay, and your mortality rate, in other words, your death rate on those is extremely high. Well, you're not going to be survived. You're not going to be around very long as a species, because it's going to be like quite pointless. But if you say, well, okay, geez, our mortality rate is going to be high, so what we're going to do, we're going to compensate, and we're just going to pump out lots of youngsters and hope that some of them get through. That works. If you look at grass, if you look at plants, so you take a head of grass, well, there's a reason that grass doesn't normally produce one seed. It produces multiple seeds, massive numbers of seeds. Why? Because the mortality rate on those individual seeds is huge. So although a clump of grass, and I have no idea how many seeds each clump of grass produces, and I'm sure someone's done the work and I can find out. It would be very interesting to know. But if one clump of grass gives off, just say, let's say 100 seeds, maybe 5% of those actually survive to germinate. And of the ones that germinate, maybe 3 of those actually end up becoming an adult plant. So it's very, very, important when we're looking at, well, when we say, well, how many litters can this thing have? Yeah, there's an optimal number, and there's an optimal number of the survival rate. But it doesn't work like that in nature. It's very, very, very seldom that any animal will reach its absolute optimum capacity in nature. So on that deep thought,
an update from our side. Our Lioness crossed, as you all know, and it was the exact spot where James had heard the alarm calls. Now, talking of James, don't think he's going to be able to join us now for the rest of the show. His car is kaput, shall we say. Don't quite know what happened. But he heard alarm calls. Once the Lioness crossed, we saw the fresh leopardess tracks. It's a leopardess. She has crossed in. So unfortunately, we were about 15 minutes behind, and they've crossed into a block rather than on the road. So now we are doing fruit loops round and round and round to try and see if we can either see where the leopardess has crossed out, or see if we can see the leopardess herself. There's definitely a female leopard in the area. Now, the impala that were alarm calling at the leopard almost chased the lion. They started alarm calling at the lioness, and then one male ran up to her, still alarm calling. Very, very brave. Extremely brave for an impala. I'm not sure I would challenge a lion if I was an impala, but he did. And that just shows you, once they've spotted the predator, they feel calm. It's when they don't know where the predator is that they react. Okay, this is going to be our second loop on this road. Now, I always say not to speculate, but we always do speculate. If it's a leopardess really using this track, I would guess Tandy. I could be wrong. So that's my mission for the next little while, to keep looping around here, and hopefully we find a leopardess.
Welcome back, everyone. So we've managed to find the rest of Bayala pride. So earlier on we had the male who's dominant of this pride feeding on a zebra, and currently we have 2 females and the 5 young males, and they're busy hunting zebra at the moment. So down in the valley there is a herd of zebra. They did try and hunt it earlier, but unfortunately they were seen, and so they're just having a look to see where that herd has run off to. And sometimes what will happen is whatever they hunt runs off, and then kind of almost forgets that they're around and carries on feeding, and then a little bit later the lions then attempt to hunt it again. So the problem with the area that they're in at the moment is the grass isn't very long, so it's going to be very tricky for them to hunt the zebra that's up ahead. And so their best chance really of catching a zebra or a wildebeest or an impala, which there's quite a few of in this particular area, is to just lie and wait in the long grass, and hopefully someone will walk into their path. Now, the direction that these 2 lions are busy looking at the moment is also the direction of one of the water holes in this area, and so we do expect a large movement of herbivores through this area to go have a drink. So they have positioned themselves in a good area, but whether they catch something here or not at the moment, it's yet to be seen. I think it's going to be tricky. As I said, the grass is short. Now you've got the 2 adult females leading the way, and I'm sure that the 5 young male cubs are going to follow very shortly. Unfortunately, it was them that ruined the hunt earlier. So at this age, around a year old, they're starting to join in with the hunts. They're not going to be too active in the hunt. They're going to watch off from the distance. But in this case, some of the young males got a little bit eager and ruined the hunt and stood up when they shouldn't have stood up and started to stalk the zebra closer. Generally what happens is that when males are born, they don't necessarily have to be born from the same females to form a coalition. They could be just males from various different females within the pride. And then when they get kicked out, they will often stick together. I have seen it once before where males from different prides have joined up together. But that's not usual and doesn't often happen. It is normally in the case like these 5 males where 2's from one female, 3's from the other. They're very similar in age, so they'll be kicked out of the pride at the same time. There is new cubs in this pride. We have only seen 2, and they're about 2 months, between 2 to 3 months old. Now, these 5 males are going to be kicked out long before those 2 will be kicked out. So what you'll find is that when these 5 get kicked out, those other 2 will still be in the pride, and the chances then of them joining up with these 5 isn't impossible, but it is a little bit less likely, because what will happen is that once these 5 get kicked out, they could travel quite a long distance from where their pride is, and becoming nomadic and moving into areas where hopefully there's no other male lions, and then by the time that the new cubs, we don't even know if they are males or females, but hypothetically speaking, if the 2-month-old cubs are males, by the time they get kicked out, there's all the chance that these males might be just too far away to be able to join up. Right, so we're going to carry on following them. I'm very interested to see what is going to happen here.
Okay, so it's so awesome that we've got some moving lions, and then we've got the other things that lions love to do, and sleep. So we've got our sleeping lions here. Not much activity, you can see there. We had a whole discussion now about this paw and who it belonged to. Does it belong to an adult or to one of the youngsters? Because now we're getting to that age with these youngsters where they are getting very big, and it's hard to differentiate between some of the older youngsters and some of the females in the pride. But we think that paw, if you look at the size of it, I mean, probably about as big as my hand, maybe slightly smaller than my hand. But it's massive, and it's got very sharp claws, and it's got a lot of power behind it. So quite a formidable weapon. A lot of activity from that other one. Quite a formidable weapon that these lions have. You see a lot of them are starting to just pretty much turn over. And maybe trying to get onto a different side. You can see the one on the right there is almost hugging the tree. Or hugging the little bush. And she's also got a very big paw. So that's one of the older females again. But they're all looking rather lazy. We think they were moving around last night. They were moving around during the rain this morning. Sorry about that. So we've got a question from Cam. Now Cam wants to know, would a male lion be selective in breeding? So would he breed, with the best lionesses? Cam, not really, hey? He'll breed with all the lionesses in a pride, regardless of sort of their status within the pride. If they are of a breeding age and they are able to breed, he will breed with all of the females in the pride. So no, he's not really, it's not like he looks at one female like, oh, you look quite small. I'm rather going to go for, that one over there because she's looking much, much bigger. There's none of that. Whatever female is in estrus is happy to mate, he will mate. You know, it's more the males that have to fight for that sort of dominance. The females, there's no really sort of hierarchical behavior or anything like that. So the males, standard across species, will just go for whatever they can get. Especially the lions. But I think what we're going to do though, as you can see they're looking quite lazy. What I want to do is actually carry on and see. Okay, we've got a car of butterflies saying bedtime beauties, and very much so. I mean, look how beautiful that is. You know, just sleeping with your brother or sister's foot on your face. Looks very, very comfortable. Very tolerant lions. You know, very tolerant. They will, you know, let another lion put its foot on its face or sleep on its head or sit on its leg or whatever it may be. But they're very tolerant. I think they're actually just lazy and they just put up with it because they're too lazy to move. But they all look very happy there. Butterfly, they look very happy indeed. Striped horse. The lions need so much sleep because they actually do expend quite a lot of energy. You know, a lot of people, you know, you come here and you just see the lions sleeping. And that's because that's what they do during the day. These are nocturnal animals. But from, you know, 9 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night until 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, these animals are moving. They're walking, they're hunting, they're patrolling, they're fighting, they're calling. They're playing with each other, especially these young ones. So a striped horse, they are very active at night. And then as a revert, they then sleep a lot during the day. But lions are... And people don't really understand how active they can be. You know, to hunt takes a lot of energy. A lot of energy. And we think they did hunt, remember, we saw the blood. So they're obviously just very tired at the moment. And it looks like they're just going to be sleeping.
So they're just moving a little bit further to the eastern side of the burrows here. What the heck is that? Someone's hair. I don't know what that was. Like, not someone, some animal's hair. Weird things you find when you're sitting out in the bush. So they went foraging this way yesterday, so I think that's exactly what they're doing now. They're just slowly moving out. And they can actually move the pups, even if those pups come above ground now, they can actually move them from one of these burrows where they are into one of the new ones, but in the same system over here. So it always amazes me how good their eyesight is yesterday. Yesterday they kept looking up towards a dune crest out to the north over here, and we actually, when we pulled out the binoculars, we actually saw what they were looking at. It was an eland bull, a big antelope bull, but it was just the top of his back sticking out above the dune. And these meerkats had picked up that movement, and that from here straight line is about 800 meters away from here. So their eyesight is superb. We'll have a look at them just now, but we've got some springbuck moving. So Vic asked something about something being shared by both genders. What was the question, please? It broke up. We got a bit of wind here. Yeah, Vic has asked, the question that was asked there was, is babysitting shared by both genders? Typically, what you'll find is that it's the sub-adult females that stay behind, or one of them that does the babysitting when the group goes foraging. But on a group this size, they will swap that out because you've only got six, let's say, adults, and it's 4 adults and 2 sub-adults. So they will never leave the same one over here. On larger groups, it'll almost always be a sub-adult female that'll stick with the babysitting duties. But then obviously as the pups come out and they start moving around on the surface and that here, and when they go foraging, then the entire group's looking out for them. So it won't just be limited to one group over there. When the group is going out foraging, even when the pups are behind, stay behind and there's a babysitter, then it tends to be the sub-adult males that do most of the sentry duty, and that's quite interesting. And that may be, and I'm just speculating, and that could be because they're slightly more expendable, these young males. So because they'll often perch out on very exposed places, like they'll climb up little bushes, little trees, sit up on mounds so they can get a better field of view. And obviously the tallest trees catch the most wind, so it could just be that's the evolutionary reason there for that. But I'm just hypothesizing there. I'm not saying there's any. See, they're all popping out now, so there's 4 up. There should be 6 that come out. The one on the far right is doing a little bit of burrow maintenance over here. We'll just pan across to that little one. Seeing digging. You see that sand being kicked up? Ooh, Butterflies asked an interesting question. How long does a baby meerkat stay with a mother? So you can get groups of meerkats where it's the same lineage for generation after generation. So you get individuals that'll stay within that group, but then you get these young males and young females that'll split off from there. So potentially a meerkat could stay in the same group as its mother for its entire life, or until the mother passes on, and then another one will take over that group, and this will just continue. So as an example, what we're seeing over here, so there's a big difference between how long it will stay dependent on the mother, which is about 9 weeks, 10 weeks, before it's actually able to feed for itself a little bit, but it'll continue for another 4 months after that, before it's fully independent. But then it'll stay within that group. Typically it's your males that move out and disperse, but you do get these sometimes two females that'll break off from a group. That typically happens when it's a very big group of meerkats. So the largest group I've personally seen on Swallow is about 22 animals, but we have recorded groups of about 30 on Swallow before. I haven't seen those, but nonetheless. And then there are groups of over 40 that have been recorded within the area. So groups like that, especially because as the group gets bigger, there becomes more and more pressure from environmental pressures in terms of trying to get enough food for a group like that, and that's when you start getting these little splinter groups breaking off. On a group this size, it's probably more likely to only be the males that are going to disperse, and the females will stick with this group. The little one sitting on the far right-hand side now is one of the nervous little ones. But you'll see Jean's just panning across him there. I think that's one of the nervous ones. In this group, there's a single individual. So I'm just going to bide my time here, and hopefully that little male will become more relaxed over time.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
We're just about to arrive to the hyena den. I need to drive nice and slowly. And of course, if no one's here, then we'll leave immediately. This is Philemon's Dip Den 3. And this is where we had the cubs yesterday morning. Not for very long, I must say. Now, we looped round and round that block looking for the leopardess, but no alarm calls, no sawing, no other tracks. Just gonna have a little look round the corner because that's where Ribbon was yesterday with that beautiful carcass. Nope, nobody's home. which means we must leave immediately. The cubs could easily be in there, don't get worried. I think the other day was a great lesson. That ribbon was there the whole day, and the carcass was there, so the smell of the carcass was there. But the cubs didn't come out, and I think that's a great lesson to all of us. I don't know the reason they never came out. Maybe they were full, maybe they were sleeping, but they didn't appear on any of the sort of occasions that I visited. But because Ribbon dragged that carcass so far from Tandy, I think that's also a great lesson that the only reason she would really bring that carcass there was for the cubs. So they had to have been in there, and of course they were. Now we're just going to get out of this area. Can you see that diker, Davy? Oh. Nope, you won't be able to see that diker because off it goes. Rema? I hope that's your name. You're asking, are all the reptiles hiding? Essentially, yes. Now, when we go to water bodies, we do see lizards. We had a giant plated lizard yesterday. We see the monitor lizards still around the water bodies. And of course, the terrapins are still out. Snakes, we still see quite a fair bit of snakes in camp. Reptiles, do not hibernate. Hibernate is a term that we use for mammals because it describes the way that certain mammals that do hibernate completely reduce their metabolic activity. But snakes, for example, they do something called brumation, and it's also a state of torpor where they do reduce their metabolic activity, but it's definitely not hibernation. And they're able to wake themselves up out of it if they need, let's just say, water. So they're able to bring themselves out of that state of torpor, go get some water, and then go back into it again. So some reptiles will bury into the ground to stay warm and not waste any energy, I guess, during the harsh winter months. But there are still a lot of reptiles around, I think it's safe to say. We don't really see snakes too much anyway. I wish we saw more snakes on drives. I'm a big fan of snakes. But unfortunately, we don't. There's lots of little geckos still. That was a grey one, Davy, wasn't it? Can we still see it? It's a grey hornbill, is it? I think it is. Normally we see the yellow and the red, but this is a grey hornbill. So it's quite unusual. I think it's got something in its mouth. It's definitely not as common for us to see these ones. I don't quite know why not. They tend to be more flighty. So as soon as the car pulls up, the grey hornbills disappear. Okay, I'm heading to the area where we had the lioness last night. I want to see, maybe we'll find our Juma clan there. I want to see what it was the vultures were after. There has to be something. That number of vultures would not be there. So off we go to investigate a potential carcass.
Yeah, so these little guys aren't in any rush to head out this morning. So I think this is a really good indication that there's still very, very good food availability in the area. Typically, as they get more and more food stressed, they'll spend less time at the burrows sunning themselves and actually moving out to try to get food. There was a big raptor hanging around here last week, a black-chested snake eagle, which is very unlikely to take them, but they would have been keeping a close eye on it. And we haven't seen anything like the pale-chanting goshawks around, martial eagles, but you never know. and no sign of snakes. Those of you with us from the beginning, about 5 weeks ago, remember all the snake activity around those other burrows, those puff adders that we were following. So over the past 2 weeks, we've seen no sign of those, which is probably a good thing having these pups now. It's really outside of snake predation time. Indigo Girl has asked, do you get mange in meerkats? Yeah, you do. And mange is, and you get different kinds of mange, 2 primary kinds, and one is almost always fatal, and it's very, very nasty, and the other one they can actually recover from. So mange is caused by a little mite that gets into the skin, and it's a highly irritant affliction. A lot of animals can get it. I've only seen one occasion on Swallow of that with meerkats, but absolutely you can get that. And they're also susceptible to other things. I mean, meerkats they can carry rabies as well, and that's obviously a nasty one. It's not something that I've seen in meerkats on Swallow, but it's not impossible. You know, that you get that right through these areas. Most of Africa, you get that. So meerkats are susceptible to a whole range of normal mammalian diseases. We are trying to keep a distance from these meerkats, especially the gendre, because gendre's got lots of fleas apparently. So we're trying to not just get his fleas to jump from him onto the meerkats. But we are giving him lots of special shampoo and stuff as well to help him. But he should be fine, if any of you are concerned. He'll make it. Kiki's saying she loves to see that little head popping up every now and again. Yeah, I think that's one of my favourite times. You know, when they're sitting right outside, they're all cute and cuddly and that. But it's just like that, especially the little nervous ones. They just pop out and go back in again, pop out and go back in again. And you often see it when it's very cold as well. You just get this like little nose and eyes sticking out the burrow. They look around and then they go down again. Very charismatic little animals. Malco has just asked, how deep do these meerkat burrows go? They're not going to go deeper than about a meter down, but that'll be very variable, and it'll also be very dependent on the substrate that they're in. In this terrain where it's just deep sand, those burrows don't need to extend down very deep. In very stony, rocky areas, it might be even shallower, just because as they're digging down, you know, the rocks, create like really, really good, stable and strong burrow systems. So they might be even a lot shallower in areas like that. One of the key things is they can't be too shallow. We've touched on this before in terms of thermoregulation properties of the soil. Number one, if a burrow is too shallow, it's going to collapse easily. But it's also, if it's too shallow, you're not going to get that ameliorating effect of extreme temperatures on these burrows. So you've got to be 30 to 50 centimeters or deeper before that ameliorating effect really kicks in.
Right, so whilst you were watching those meerkats, I think you were discussing some of their burrowing, how deep their burrows might be. So, these are red-billed buffalo weaver nests that you can see in a tree above Leopard Dam. And they also make holes. They don't nest on top, they nest inside those. So if you look closely there, you can just about see the big holes in those very shaggy looking nests. So that's where all the red-billed buffalo weavers live inside. So there, we've seen a bunch this morning out and about around Leopard Dam, which is where we are now. And they have been busy catching insects and hunting around for all sorts of different things. Right now they're not at home. There is a goose which is also nesting there on the lower part of that tree. Oh, the goose is just popping out. There's Mr. Goose or Mrs. Goose. I'm not sure. It's difficult to tell the difference between males and females. It's not so easy from this distance. So this goose has been tending its nest quite fastidiously, collecting bits of stick, smoothing it out. So it actually is using the red-billed buffalo weaver's nests as a base for its own nest. So there's a pair of geese here at Leopard Dam. They are quite aggressive. They always tend to chase away other birds from anywhere near this tree, except the buffalo weavers. They seem to, be quite harmonious with them, but they tend to not like anything else going anywhere near their nests. Surprised that they haven't chased the two lapwings, which are on the sandy bank just below them. But you see this goose is there looking around, just wanting to relax for the morning. It's been a cold morning, a very cold morning actually, so this goose is not particularly active, the Egyptian goose. Anna Marie has commented that these nests are really big. They're huge. Actually, some of the biggest nests that we get in this particular reserve in Pride Lands are these red-billed buffalo weaver nests, because that is a big bird, the goose, and these nests are much bigger than the bird. Now, we have another type of bird here called a hammerkop, which makes a nest very similar, also very, very huge, and they're known to have the largest single nest of all the birds. But this goose will add to its nest slowly throughout the day, and whilst we wait here to see if anything comes down to the water, we'll just enjoy this beautiful scene.
We have the most incredible views of a hooded vulture. The whitebacks seem to have all flown off, which sort of tells me there's maybe nothing on the ground for us to find, but the hooded remains. Look at that. The hooded is smaller than the whitebacks, and that beak is shaped for feeding on the softer organs. So the hooded are known for going for eyes or intestines or the softer organs of the carcass. They're very brave birds. I've watched hooded vultures challenge lions, leopards, hyenas. They're not afraid. Not the most aesthetically pleasing birds either. And you can see where the name hooded comes from. They look like they've got a big great hood wrapping around their head. But what they do have is, you see those feathers sticking out from the neck? Off he goes. Wasn't that the most incredible views? Yeah, Soren, riding the thermals now. Sassy Cassie, you're saying that vulture was really pretty. Did I get that right? Pretty. Not sure if I would use that word, Sassy Cassie, but yes, it was a beautiful angle of the bird. Vultures have a terrible reputation, they really do, but it's not deserved. They're essential in any ecosystem. They clean up the ecosystem. I'm just wondering whether I should go in. I think I should. Maybe we'll see a hyena or two, and that would be amazing. This is where we had the lioness last night. And there's definitely has to be something here, so I'm just going to quickly try and solve this mystery for now, and then we may head back to quarantine for any signs of the princess.
So what I've done, I've just moved a little bit closer here now. And in principle, I always like watching animals from further away and slowly moving closer rather than like doesn't matter how relaxed an animal is, rather than just driving straight up to it. Kind of, because also we assume that we know animals' behavior and what's been going on in that, but we don't. I mean, we don't know what happened with these meerkats last night, or a leopard, or a herd of elephants, or whatever. And it's always just good. The practice is to keep your distance to begin with, and then slowly start moving closer. And it's just in terms of habituation, which is a slightly different thing, is building up slowly rather than just trying to rush it. There's the little alpha female here that's just gone here on the right. She's spending an awful lot of time at that particular burrow. Yes, and I wonder if she hasn't maybe shifted those pups down there. I don't think so. I don't think she has. I think they're still back towards one of the middle burrows. But it's going to be very interesting over the coming days to see if she actually does move them into one of these ones that she's been doing a lot of housekeeping on. I mean, these ones right in front of me here, she's been ignoring. It kind of done a bit of digging here, but very little. But those ones that she's at there now, there's been a huge amount of burrow maintenance. So it could be, yeah, we're talking about you and your burrow. Alicia has asked, what is the significance of the burrows facing one direction? It's a good observation as to where we're sitting here now, but it actually doesn't hold true for this entire burrow system. These ones here, you're 100% correct, are all facing northeast, northeast, but the burrows on the other side are actually facing west, and yeah, so and then we've got one here actually facing southwest. So there's actually not a huge amount in the direction that the burrows face. But why I love that question is, if we look at burrows that aardvark, again, this is a generalization. It's not, you would have to do a huge amount more work and GPSing actual burrows and looking at the directions they face. That's like a lot of leg work and ground truthing. But what we tend to find is that a lot of these aardvark burrows, so not these are meerkats, but in terms of aardvark burrows, a lot of them tend to be on the western slopes of dunes, and we think that it may have something to do with actually warming up those burrow entrances before the evening. In other words, on the western slope, it's just gathering all that late afternoon sun, warming those burrows up, which means the aardvark can warm up faster before actually going out and foraging. So they're losing less energy. That is a tentative hypothesis at the moment. Where's that animal gone? Is it stalking me? Oh, there she is there. It's a good question, very good question about the burrow direction there. So that's a little alpha that's starting to move out now, so I don't think the others will be too much longer, although I've got it wrong every single time over the past 3 weeks, so just take what I say with a pinch of salt, actually. Sucker Rob has asked, can meerkats walk on 2 legs? I don't think they'll be able to. I've never seen a meerkat walking on 2 legs, but maybe they can. Yeah, but I've never seen one. I don't think their design is made for that. When they're sitting propping themselves up, they're using their tail, so they make like a little tripod, and sometimes you see them like toppling over every now and again. But no, I don't think they'd be walking on 2 legs. And it's certainly completely aberrant behavior if they do that. She's just coming back now. Let's see what she does. Nope. All good. She just went out to have a look.
Looking around a little bit, so I wanted to go for a bit of a walk to get closer to this beautiful leadwood tree that's sitting close to this Waterhole leopard dam. We heard some elephants in the distance, and we're wondering if they might come down and drink in a little bit. So while we wait, we thought we might point out the amazing things that elephants do to trees near waterholes. So as you can see close to where my hand is here, there's a lot of mud on this tree, and this is from the elephants, well, from lots of animals probably, but mostly from elephants. And just to show you how tall an elephant can be, I brought my little tracking stick with me. How tall is an elephant? That's how tall an elephant is. And you see the mud that's just caking on this this branch here. That was a very, very big elephant that came and rubbed itself against this leadwood tree. And here it's almost started to smooth the whole side of the tree with the amount of rubbing that it's doing. And the reason why they do this is so that they can get the mud on their body, and they rub it off. It's like exfoliating. You ever used like a scrubbing brush on your skin? It feels so great. Same for elephants. So they get rid of any ectoparasites, anything that is disturbing them, dead skin. Yeah, it makes them feel really clean and fresh. And of course, they sometimes get a bit rough with these trees, and their trunks, or not their trunks, their tusks, can gouge holes in them, opening up the heartwood. And this is not so great for the tree. Some trees that are a bit softer might then get attacked by insects, and that might cause the tree to fall down or be damaged. This is a leadwood, so it's almost impervious to insects. Termites don't eat it. And this tree itself, it's a big leadwood tree, is probably a couple 100 years old. If it doesn't get damaged or pushed down or destroyed in a storm of some sort, it might live for another 200-300 years, who knows how long. I mean, I think these trees can get to many, many centuries old, and once they die, naturally they die of old age sometimes, and this tree might stay in exactly the state that it is, standing up like this for another 300 or 400 years. So it's amazing. Sometimes these leadwood trees, the dead ones that you see, beautiful ones, I'm trying to see if there's one here. No, there's not one that we can see right here, but sometimes at beautiful waterholes you'll see these picturesque trees that the vultures always sit on, or the geese or the fish eagles, and those trees are sometimes 500-600 years dead already, and that's amazing. These are actually my absolute favorite trees. I just think they look so awesome when they stand alone by the waterholes. So yeah, you can see the animals have been rubbing all against this. Sometimes you might even see some mud right down at the bottom, and this is probably from something like a warthog. Kiki didn't even know there was wood that termites couldn't eat. Absolutely, Kiki. There's a lot of woods that termites can't eat. Woods that are very toxic, they often don't want to eat. So woods like tambuti, this tree that's on the island just behind me there, that's actually a tambuti tree, or a number of tambuti trees. They're also quite termite resistant because of the toxic sap inside. And the leadwood is resistant to termites and other insects just because it's incredibly hard. Other trees that might be fairly resistant to termites might be something like red bush willows, which I'm sure you've seen on Wild Earth at some point. If not, I'll show you some. And there are other trees that are also resistant to insects. I can't see one right now called a cork bush, and that one's also got a chemical in it called rotenone, which we often use. We'll take a bit of the bark off, rub it on our skin, and then that keeps the insects off us. But it's absolutely beautiful. Actually, it's one of my favorite things to do, just to stand underneath these amazing huge leadwood trees and watch waterholes.
So that little one that Jandre's got in the frame now, that's one of the... Originally was one of the slightly more nervous ones, but it's just become so relaxed. But the really skittish little one is further behind that one now. Probably just out of sight of the camera there. But the alpha female has been a real trooper, and the fact that she's really settled and the other adult, makes this group is just really getting better by the day. They're starting to talk. There's one sitting between Jandre and myself over here, but you won't be able to hear it, but he's starting to make little murmurings and little noises and that. So I think they're fairly close to starting to move off now. Zane says, how do the babysitters nurse the pups? The babysitters don't nurse the pups at all. Their duty is there just to make sure that nothing happens to those pups. So if you get snakes coming towards the burrow, any kind of predators, she'll go underground and she'll try guard those pups. Yeah, but she won't nurse them till the only one that'll nurse them is that female, the mother of the youngsters. But just think of that responsibility. That's like, leaving your kids at home with a 12-year-old to like babysit your little kids. That's like quite a big responsibility they've got going here. And but just it's obviously a system that really works for them. And I mean, from an evolutionary perspective, they wouldn't have been doing it if it didn't work. I mean, these are massively successful animals. They cover a huge range in terms of the semi-arid and arid areas of southern Africa. So, and like we were saying, it's one thing having these little sub-adults staying behind or babysitting the youngsters, but when that group is out foraging, especially on a small group like this, I mean, yes, they're all looking around every now and again while they're digging, but the sentries are these young males that sit up there, and the entire group's safety pretty much rests in their paws, or their eyes, depending. But but like I say, it really seems to work. Dylan has just asked another interesting question. Where does the name meerkat come from? And it's a name, if I recall correctly. Okay, firstly, it's got nothing to do with the cat whatsoever. One of the interpretations has been, someone has said that it's more because meer is in Afrikaans is more, and kat is a cat, so it's like more cat than dog-like. That's not the explanation at all. A meer is actually a lake, and it's actually named after I think it's an Asian word referring to a species of monkey, the old Dutch word for a species of monkey that resides around lakesides, that kind of stuff. But how that name got transferred to these animals, I don't know. But it's interesting that the etymology of the name, how do names come out, and not just for them. How does anything's name come about? And very often these things are kind of like grayed out and lost in the mist of time, and you hear a lot of anecdotes, but who knows? But this actually derives from the name of a monkey in Asia that resides around like lakesides and that. But I'll actually get the actual name for you. I really want to see which direction these meerkats.
Okay, so apologies about that. Apparently a few technical difficulties there with Dylan and his meerkats. So we went on the hunt for some elephants. We went to see if we could find any. We went up into the central parts, towards the Waterhole, Clara Dam, but then we found the rain, so we had to leave that area because obviously the rain's not good. So we left, and now we're heading back down sort of towards the lions. Now we heard some elephants down in this area. We want to see if we can maybe find them down around here, and then we'll probably pop in at the lions, see if there's been any change there. The tracking teams are out there looking for any signs of leopards. But with this weather, the rain that we had, a bit harder to see the tracks. Unless these animals now walk across the road after the rain, then you can obviously see and you know how fresh it is. But if it's before the rain, it becomes quite a challenge because it all mixes in. I just got to see Owen's quickly going to clean the lens. It has gotten wet a number of times. So this is roughly where we heard the elephants. Now can you see on our left hand side there's a fence. There's a wildlife research center inside there. So that is the boundary on our eastern side at the moment, is this fence. But it's just a small area, so animals can walk around. Okay, so we got a question. I think it was from Kiki or Kitty maybe. Want to know, is there a benefit to being monogamous for the animals? I would say no. Purely because, you know, a lot of the instinctual behaviors of these animals, especially the males and the females actually, is just to reproduce, you know, try and sort of spread their genes, let their genes dominate, and that's obviously easier done if you are mating with everybody. You know, if you now go monogamous and you can only mate with sort of one female and that's for life and things like that, you then struggle to spread your gene as easily, as widely. So I would say no, the benefits of being monogamous are not very high. Obviously, I think if you are monogamous, then your partner will stick with you for your whole life. So you don't have to compete for mates all the time. So I would say there's pros and cons, but out here in the wild, I would say there's more cons than pros to monogamy.
There's something interesting about meerkats. I just want to clarify. There's, when we talk about the alpha female, yeah, on these smaller groups, there's no question she's the dominant one. She normally sets the direction that they're going to go. She'll be the one that has pups. But in larger groups, you can actually get multiple females that'll actually have pups. But we kind of like fall into this trap of saying, you know, well, there's just one female that'll breed and she'll always kill the other pups of other females, and they do that. It's a well-known thing, infanticide. But again, it sounds horrendous, but there's a good reason for that. Is, you know, when you've got a very, very small group of meerkats, and all your energy, especially in these harsh environments, needs to go into making sure your pups survive. There's no benefit, there's no evolutionary benefit to letting another female have pups in a group. You know, it's you know, you can say, well, yeah, it's adding to the numbers of the group, so there'll be more eyes and ears looking out for danger, but it doesn't work like that. You know, because for those first 2 months, the entire group's energy is going to be split between trying to raise multiple females. And if you're the leader of that group, you want to make sure all of that energy goes into making sure that your pups are the ones that have got the best chance of survival. But, you know, if food resources aren't a limiting factor, and you've got a larger group size, and that'll be related to abundance of food and availability and how easily accessible that food is, yes, then you can have a number of different females breeding at the same time. But typically, once those groups, you know, on Swali, once they get to 12 individuals, give or take, I mean, that's a real thumbsuck figure, that, but it's a ballpark area. Once they start getting to that size, you start getting these little split-offs in that, and individuals moving out and trying to join up with other groups, and that'll be directly related to habitat quality, and particularly food. You know, resources in terms of, because everything out here is a resource. You know, the burrows are a resource. Meerkats can excavate their own burrows, but they'll typically use burrows and just modify burrows that other animals have already started, whether it's ground squirrels or spring hares, things like that. So that is a resource, but in this environment where burrows are not in short supply, that's not the critical factor. It's easy to come across a burrow or make your own in the sand, but the food is the big challenge. And when you just see, as we progress later or deeper into winter, and then as we're coming out of winter into the summer months, when it becomes incredibly hot, incredibly dry, that is the crunch time for these little guys. And when you see how deep they start foraging, you know, for like things like scorpions, then you realize how tough it can be. Sorry, just please repeat that question. I think it was, how much grams of food does a meerkat eat? Is that correct? Okay. Okay, from Cameron's just asked, how many ounces of food does a meerkat need? Now, my maths is shocking at the best of the time, so I won't even try to convert that. But if you're looking at on the general principle that we're working on for any animal, give or take, is 5 to 6% of its total body mass per day as what we call a maintenance diet. So that's, you want to survive and carry on and breed and be healthy, you're looking at about 5 to 6% of your body mass per day. that is not necessarily the optimum, but it's certainly it's a good maintenance diet. But the thing is, to get that amount of food is not always that easy. So these little meerkats have just like shuffled off. There's one still down over here now. But yeah, that's what you can work on. So you can work out that for any animal. You know, if you want to look after a lion or a dog or yourself, you can work on 5 to 6% of your body weight per day.
So we've got an animal that eats a lot more food than a meerkat. It's a nice big elephant bull. So we heard it trumpeting from the waterhole, but it was very far away. So we decided to head out and see if we could find him. And, we got very lucky and found him straight away. So he's not alone. There's another elephant in the area. Maybe they were having a bit of an argument. And that's what all the trumpeting was about. But as you can see, he's a hidden elephant, very well camouflaged. Hiding behind the bushes, trying to be camera shy. But I know that he really does want to be filmed. So as you can see, he's busy slowly feeding away at some of these sparse bushes. There's still a little bit of green vegetation, so he's getting what he needs. But yes, much more than a meerkat's few ounces. This elephant is probably going to eat about 150 kilograms of food. Well, that's at the top end, 150 kilograms. Let's just say over 100 kilograms of food a day. That's a lot of food. So this elephant needs to feed constantly. So as you see, it takes a step, then grabs some grass, then takes another couple of steps, then it grabs some leaves. Just never not eating. Oh, and he's done us a great service by coming out. What a gentleman. What a nice elephant. So as you can see, it's a bull. Not an old bull, fairly young. I'd probably say this elephant is about maybe just under 30 years old. So it's a good size, but not super huge yet. But now that it's out in the open, you can't mistake it's an elephant. It's amazing, actually. Sometimes when I'm driving around on my own and I don't have, a whole vehicle full of guests or Gerrit with his sharp eagle eyes, sometimes I drive right past an elephant when it's just hiding in the bushes. It's amazing to see just how well they can be camouflaged. This elephant's actually eating on all these raisin bushes. That's the bush that it's eating from. There's no raisins on it. The fruits that it does bear are somewhat tasting like raisins, but there's none at the moment. And the leaves are quite tough, actually. It's quite interesting. It must be that there's just not much else to eat at the moment, so they're having to eat, or he's having to eat, whatever it can find. He looks pretty content, though. I talked about it the other day, the soft eyes of an elephant. So this elephant's got very soft eyes. He looks very, very happy. Tammy's asked how big this elephant is. Well, just now I was standing at the waterhole and using my stick to point out how tall an elephant was. So I'd say this elephant would be about as tall as me if I stood on my shoulders but crouching down on my shoulders. So maybe just about 2.5 meters tall, 2.5 to 3 meters at the most. It's not as big as it could be. This elephant can grow quite a lot larger. That in front of it is just a shrub, not quite a tree. So there you go. This elephant is as tall as a medium-sized or large shrub. I don't know if that really explains it at all. Gosh, Mike, do better at explaining elephant heights. It's tall enough. It can reach what it needs to reach. Interesting, this elephant does not need to use his height, though. He's feeding at the bottom of this tree, getting the shoots that are protected from the sunlight, keeping a bit of their moisture. If I stood under this elephant, my head would probably touch the bottom of its chin. And I'm 1.8 meters tall, maybe just a bit more. So there you go. Its chin is as tall as a averaged height man. Man, I wish I was as content as this elephant. It looks like nothing in the world could possibly faze him. Just so calm. I think that was from Sassy, the elephant's favorite fruit. What is an elephant's favorite fruit? Well, that's actually very interesting. I know for certain that in this area on Pride Lands we have a lot of marula trees. In fact, there's a road called Marula Lane, which we might drive a little bit later, and that is filled with marula trees, and the fruits are these yellow plum-sized fruits, and they are very, very citric. So they've got a lot of vitamin C in them, and elephants love them. In the early part of summer, around December, the elephants are literally walking from tree to tree, gathering up all the fruits they can get, and they absolutely love them. In fact, I've even seen elephants pushing with their foreheads up against the trees to make more fruits fall down. So the tree that it's eating from right now is called a raisin, and I have also seen often lots of raisin fruit seeds in the dung of elephant. So they do like these as well, but I would say marulas probably top the charts. I know that they do cause problems in other parts of Africa where there aren't fences around the game reserves and the animals can roam freely from place to place. There are a lot of problems with orange farmers, orange and lemon farmers, because elephants love anything with vitamin C. In fact, I think in the old days you would have people with oranges in their pockets on the vehicles. We often tell guests not to take fruit on the vehicles with them anymore because elephants could smell those fruits and would come right up to the vehicles hoping to see what it was that they could snack on. So you need to be very careful. I know I've gone camping lots of times with fruit in my car, and elephants have come up to try and sniff around my car to see what they can find. So I've stopped that straight away. Don't need an elephant putting a tusk through the side of my car, trying to sneak a tasty morsel. I think an orange or a marula would be much tastier than that twig. But I mean, I don't think an animal could look happier. See, the eyes are half closed. So, as I said, it was quite light last night. It was very bright. It was about half a moon. So elephants could still move around. They got good sense of smell, good hearing. Poor eyesight, though. You can see that small eye compared to the rest of its body. Oh, beautiful shot. How wonderful. So they probably moved around quite a lot last night. Oh, he's coming very close. Hello, Mr. Elephant. Oh, hi. Hello, Mr. Elephant. I don't have any oranges. You can probably stop right there. Oh, hi. He's waving to everyone. Wonderful. Look at that. Just came to say hi, and now moving off to continue foraging around some of the bushes. Oh, I love it when that happens. So, he's going to go and feed at the base of this other tree now. I'm going to be moving forward. Well, in fact, I'm not going to move at all because I don't want to disturb him. You see how he's turned his head slightly to look at us? He's just watching us, making sure we don't move any much. He just wants to make sure that we're not going to come any closer. So let's just wait right here and see what he does.
All the wildebeest happen to be in front of us right now. We're surrounded by impala and wildebeest. Now, sometimes, well, actually, most of the time, you can tell by their location what's happened on quarantine. And of course, Tlalamba was on quarantine and a lioness this morning, which is exactly why the wildebeest are over on the western side. Now, just an update, we came back to quarantine just to see if we could pick up on any signs of our princess, and we did. On top of our vehicle tracks. Yes, everybody. What that means is after we left, Tlalamba walked exactly where we were positioned. Such a great feeling. But of course, we went after the lioness to catch up with her. And we managed to pick up Tlalamba's tracks on the western edge. So we've stopped to say hello to our wildebeest. Hello. And I just want to continue down this road to see if we can pick up signs of Miss Tlalamba. She's been very elusive for me these days. James snapped his steering rod yesterday following her, which is exactly what I did a few months ago. So steering rods and Tlalamba don't go well together. Look how big these youngsters are getting. They don't look like calves anymore. They just look like miniature adults. Wildebeest calves are actually incredibly cute. They still are cute, but they're a lot cuter when they're much younger. And they're a tawny, sort of tawny colour. I wonder if the wildebeest are enjoying the cooler temperatures of winter. With this particular species, you tend to see that they don't eat during the hottest parts of the day. Beverly? You're saying, my goodness, they are cute. Aren't they just? They've still got that tone colour on their sort of forehead, if you like, on the crown of their head. You can still see that's the colour that they are when they're born. It's very light. And they're extra fluffy. But yes, wildebeest don't feed during the hottest parts of the day. They normally seek refuge in the shade. So when it's very, very hot in summer, you'll find that they won't be eating. They'll just be seeking out shade and avoiding the hot temperatures of the sun. Or they'll stand in the direction of the breeze and try to cool down. So you only really find them feeding when it's cool, and the temperature's just perfect right now for these wildebeest to graze all the yummy grasses. Claudia, you're asking about the wrinkles or stripes. I think they're folds of skin. Not sure. I guess wrinkles is the right word. They're folds of skin, and when the individual turns one way or another, you can see that skin stretches out. So yes, it's wrinkles. It gives them a very bizarre appearance. And that also gives some wildebeest get called gunus. Gunus. Davy does a very good impression of the noise that they make. I'm not so good at it. Purely from the vocalization that they do make. And they also get called the brindled gnu. And that's for that exact reason. Those sort of wrinkly bands that they have on their shoulder area, going down their rib cage. Gnu. Yeah. I'm not doing very well with my wildebeest impersonation. James, you're asking, can you call a young wildebeest a juvenile? Most animals that are young, you can call juvenile. We normally use the terms juvenile, sub-adult, and then adult. And depending on what organism you're looking at, that will differ across the board. But you can call a young wildebeest a juvenile or a calf. A calf is the correct term for a very young young wildebeest. But you absolutely can use the word juvenile. You can use juvenile when you're referring to fish, when you're referring to lobsters, frogs, hyenas. Juvenile is a broad term for a young organism that you can use across the board. They're very relaxed, considering there was a leopard and a lion around not so long ago. And this herd of wildebeest have done very, very well to keep all their young. Considering the density of predators we do have here, we don't always find them, but they're here. I don't believe they lost any offspring. Annette, you're asking, do both male and females have a beard? They do have hair under their chin, yes. They're very hairy on the top of their necks and underneath their chin. I'm not sure I would call it a beard, but yes, they do. It's actually quite tricky to tell the difference between male and female wildebeest. And they both have horns, so it's not easy, like Impala. And the females are said to be more browner in colour, but I find that not so easy to go by. You're better to actually look for genitals, if you can see them, and if not, you're better to look at the horns. They do have different shaped horns, male and females. It's really tricky when it comes to juveniles as well. But you can see the penis sheath. Normally from the side, when a male turns to the side, you can see the penis sheath. And I think that's the best method of telling a difference. But they both do have beards, yes. Yes, Annette. They all have hairy chins. Okay, I'm going to quickly do one last loop for signs of our princess.
Just watching that fantastic flock of sociable weavers that has just taken off behind the meerkats over there. So the weavers are actually out foraging now, and a lot, moving in these big groups. The meerkats were very, very attentive when that flock moved in. There's obviously no threat to them, but it is just, there's a lot of movement there that would attract their attention. And with this wind that's been steadily picking up through the morning now, we're probably sitting on about 10 kilometers an hour, 8 to 10 kilometers an hour wind. And when we arrived here, it was a very, very, very gentle breeze. So that would have just kind of like put a little bit of a nervous edge on these little meerkats. So although those weavers would have certainly attracted their attention, it wouldn't have been a big concern for them. It would have. But you can never be too careful out here, I guess, if you're running around and you're that size, you're a good food item for many things. So the little alpha female, or what we call the dominant female, she has moved off, but these ones will follow on her tail soon. I apologize, I didn't get the name there, unfortunately. But the question is, do they use sense of smell or eyesight? Katmat has just asked, do they use a sense of smell or eyesight to detect prey? Their eyesight is incredibly good, but their sense of smell is easily as good. And for most of their actual foraging, to locate food items, it's their sense of smell that they're using. They'll detect the scent on the ground and then they'll actually dig for it. But their eyesight, is the key thing for actually staying alive and staying safe. In terms of watching out for aerial predators, snakes, that kind of thing. Just interestingly, apparently puff adders have essentially no scent or very little scent, and apparently a dog cannot detect a puff adder. I didn't know that, but apparently it's true. And so I'd be interested to see if a meerkat can actually detect a puff adder using its sense of smell as opposed to just visually. So it's always so good just spending time with these animals, and like I say, they're just becoming more and more relaxed, and hopefully over the next couple of days we're actually going to be privy to seeing these little ones come out for the first time. So I really hope that all of you, wherever you are still able to keep joining us on these morning sessions, and obviously the afternoon sessions as well. But certainly with the meerkats in the mornings, it's going to be really, really good over the coming days, I think. I don't know what I'm going to do to contain my excitement, but I'll try. So Chandra and I, we're going to spend a little bit more time here watching what these meerkats get up to. But in the meantime, you must all please stay safe. It's wonderful having you with us. Please join us again this afternoon, and we will see you shortly.